Hello, this is your host, Adam Graham, from Pretty Much the Present. And in this video, we'll be bringing you a compilation of old-time radio detective podcasts from 2010. The podcasts are appearing, for the most part, unedited, except for some extraneous or repetitive elements that are being removed because this is a compilation. As I said, these are old, so any websites or offers mentioned may not be valid at the time you're listening unless you find them on our website currently. Now, with that said, here is a week of old-time radio detective podcast. Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. Got a comment? Email me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And become a friend on Facebook, facebook.greatdetectives.net. We have more than 300 fans there who have liked the overall podcast. I should mention that the show we did 2 weeks ago, The Treasure of Hang Lee, was the most liked show episode that we've ever done on Podcast Alley. A lot of people love that. It was a great show. Of course, if you're one of our friends on Podcast Alley, you can hit the like button on any episode that you like, and your friends will know that you enjoyed that particular show. But Treasure of Hang Lee, I think, was probably just one of the best episodes of Box 13 that we've done yet. All right, well, before we get started, I want to let you know about our sponsors. If you like having the flexibility to live your life and doing the things that are important to you, you'll like GoToMeeting. With GoToMeeting's conferencing solutions, you can meet virtually with clients and business partners and reduce the cost associated with doing business. GoToMeeting is from Citrix, the makers of the trusted GoToMyPC product. Like GoToMyPC, it's simple to use, and it doesn't require you to learn new technology. Listeners to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio can try GoToMeeting free for 45 days. For this special offer, visit gotomeeting.com/podcast. That's gotomeeting.com/podcast to start your free trial. And now let's get into today's episode of Box 13, The Dead Man Walks.
Box 13, with the star of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd, as Dan Holliday.
Box 13, care of Star Times. I saw your ad in the paper and I wondered if you'd help me. I can't go to the police and I have no money for a private detective. But my father is in trouble, I'm sure, and when you find out who he is, you'll know why I can't go to the police and why I must have...
You'll know why I can't go to the police and why I must have help. This is Sheila Corbett, 356 Waring Avenue. It didn't sound like much, this letter, but I did find out who her father was. I found him dead, then learned he was alive. Sure, it sounds impossible, but that was it.
And now back to The Dead Man Walks, another Box 13 adventure with Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday.
I wonder why she can't go to the police.
Susie, if I knew that, I wouldn't have to go to see Mrs. Corbett.
Gee, Mr. Holliday, it sure sounds like a wild goose chase. It'll probably turn out to be a dub. Oh, is that the word I wanted?
Susie, only you can give the answer to that question.
Well, once in a while I get a word right. Well, don't I?
Oh, sure. That's what makes it so interesting. When you do get one right, I don't know what you're talking about.
Kind of makes it the slice of life, huh?
2 strikes, and before you foul tip the next one, I'm leaving for... What was that address?
356 Waring Avenue.
356 Waring Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
So long, Susie. It wasn't a very nice neighborhood, 356 Waring Avenue. But the flat I entered was neat, clean scrubbed, and polished. And the woman who asked me to sit down was as neat and clean as the room. I waited for her to start things, and she did.
I'm Mrs. Sheila Corbett.
Yes, I guessed that. And I'm Box 13. My name's Dan Holliday.
Well, I don't know how to start, Mr. Holliday.
The beginning's always a good place, Mrs. Corbett. Saves time and trouble.
I want you to find my father.
You said you couldn't go to the police about it. Why not?
Because my father is a paroled convict. Do you understand?
Are you afraid he's done something?
No, I know that's not true. He swore he'd go straight when he came home.
But you think he hasn't.
I didn't say that.
But the fact that you're afraid to go to the police says so. Look, Mrs. Corbett, if he's done nothing wrong, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yes, I know. But there'd be questions. I have 2 children, Mr. Holliday. A husband who's wonderful to me. No one in this neighborhood knows about my father, so... Well...
All right, Mrs. Corbett, I'll give it a whirl. But first, when did you last see your father?
The day after he was released on parole. He came here.
Was he all right?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. He'd come home. He was here maybe 2 hours when the phone rang.
Sheila, telephone.
Answer it, will you, Dad?
All right. Hello? Oh, yeah, it's me. Why'd you call up? Look, I said nothing doing. I meant it. I'm straight now. Nothing doing. You won't get him, and I won't say where they are. Let me alone, will you? Just let me alone.
Dad, who was it?
Just a man I used to know.
Who?
Nobody you know, honey.
Well, what did he want?
Nothing.
You were afraid. Why? Why were you afraid?
It wasn't anything, Sheila.
Dad, if there's something wrong...
There ain't.
You're on parole,
I know it. Don't you think I know it?
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. But, Sheila...
What, Dad?
Here. I want you to keep this for me.
What is it?
Just a piece of paper with something on it. Put it in a safe place. Keep it for me.
Keep it for you? Dad, why do you say that?
There's nothing to worry about, Sheila. Nothing at all. Now just forget all about it and don't worry, because there ain't anything to worry about.
He said there wasn't anything to worry about, Mr. Holliday. But I was worried. He didn't come home that night. Or the next day.
And you don't know where he went?
No.
May I see the piece of paper he gave you?
Yes, here it is.
Is this all?
That's all.
517 Slack Street, S. Thomas, 945. Does this mean anything to you?
No.
Do you know the address, 517 Slack Street?
Not at all.
And the name, S. Thomas?
I never heard it before.
Do you mind if I take this?
No, of course not. Do you think you know what it means?
No more than you do. But I'll try to find out.
How?
By going to 517 Slack Street and seeing if there's a Mr. S. Thomas there. The piece of paper with a message on it seemed like it might be a reminder to meet Mr. S. Thomas at 9:45 at this address. But when? What day? Why? Was S. Thomas the man who called Mrs. Corbett's father on the phone? You know, a guy can ask himself a lot of questions and get no answers. So I drove to 517 Slack Street. It was a pawn shop, with everything from gold toothpicks to elephant heads. And clocks. Lots of clocks that ticked off little punctuation marks into the silence. Hello? Hello? Anybody here? Holy mackerel. Holy mackerel. Hey, what the...
wake up. Hey, McGuire, look. This guy's out like high-button shoes. You wake up, come on.
No.
That's the boy. Come on, sit up.
Sit up. Without my head?
Look, fella, parking on the side of the road isn't allowed.
Who are you?
State trooper, who are you?
I'm Dan Holliday.
Welcome to Hamilton County.
What did you say?
Look, are you drunk?
Did you say Hamilton County?
That's it. We saw your car. Looked like there wasn't anybody in it. Stopped to take a look.
And found me.
You're no Easter egg, but, brother, all that lump on your head needs is a shell.
How far is it to the city?
About 70 miles.
Thanks, I'll be going now.
Oh, no. Maybe you better come with us.
All right. Get in touch with Lieutenant Kling. I'll identify myself and tell him a nice story. He won't believe it, but I've got a lump on my head to back me up.
Let's have it from the beginning.
You don't believe me, do you?
You saw a dead man in that pawn shop.
Then somebody teed off on me for a hole-in-one. When I woke up, I was out in the country. Out in the next county.
In your own car?
In my own car.
What time did you go to the pawn shop?
It was 2:15.
It's 5 now. That's better than 3 hours. And no dead bodies have been reported. I keep in touch with them.
I tell you, I saw one.
Whose?
I didn't ask.
What did he look like?
Medium height, gray hair, blue suit.
Go on.
Well, that's about all I can tell you.
Gray. Nothing else?
I didn't get to count his teeth because the roof fell in. Look, I've got a knot on my head. Doesn't that prove anything?
I guess it does. But you're sure you didn't recognize the man you saw lying dead?
No, I never saw him before.
And you went there looking for...
I'll be doggone.
What's the matter?
I didn't ask her his name.
Her? Who?
Mrs. Sheila Corbett.
What?
Does that flint strike a spark in your iron head?
You ever hear of a man named Winslow? Albert Winslow?
No.
Ex-convict. Parole. Sent up for counterfeiting.
That might be. You got a picture of him?
Yeah, wait a minute. Sergeant, file on Albert Winslow. Bring it in.
Albert Winslow has a daughter named Mrs. Sheila Corbett. Is that it?
What deduction? By the way, Winslow answers the description of your dead man, roughly.
Well, let's get going.
Hold your horses. Bring it here, Sergeant.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Let's see it.
There you are. That's all, Sergeant.
Okay.
Kling, look. This is Albert Winslow, and Albert Winslow is the man I saw dead in that pawn shop.
You're sure?
Look, could I make this up?
I guess not. Okay, Dan, let's go to your pawn shop. Let's see what we can redeem. This is it.
517 Slack Street.
Come on. It's the same place?
Sure it is.
Yes, sir. Can I do something for you?
Maybe. This your shop?
Oh, yes.
Uh-huh.
Were you in here at 2:15 this afternoon?
2:15? Well, yes, why?
You're sure?
Well, of course.
How long have you been here?
Why, about 15 years?
I mean today.
Holiday. Would you like my badge?
Badge?
Yeah, police. Homicide.
Oh, my goodness, sir.
Yeah, What's the matter, Dan?
You'll take a look behind this counter.
Huh? Well, I'm looking. What am I supposed to see?
Albert Winslow dead.
Where?
Look, Winslow was behind this counter at 2:15 this afternoon.
Excuse me, but I don't understand this.
Well, neither do I.
What's your name?
Holiday.
Shut up. Yours?
Barlow. Michael Barlow.
You know a man named Albert Winslow?
I never heard of him. No, I'm sure I didn't.
Mind if we look over your place?
Oh, certainly not. But I still don't understand.
I'll draw it for you, Mr. Barlow. At 2:15 this afternoon, I walked into this shop.
This one?
This one. There was no one here except a dead man behind the counter. Then I was slugged.
In here?
That's right.
But that's impossible. Well, I've been here all day.
Come on, we'll take a look around.
Wait a minute, Kling.
What now?
This place looks a little different from what it did earlier. It looks as though it's been changed around.
That's impossible, too.
Dan, are you sure this is the place?
Of course I am.
Okay, we'll give it a fine-tooth comb job.
Certainly, help yourselves. Be only too glad to do anything I can, although this is certainly very peculiar.
Thus, we have the understatement of the week.
Well, let's get...
That's my phone. May I answer it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
I won't be a minute. Hello? Who? Oh, yes, just a minute. Lieutenant Kling.
Yeah?
It's for you.
Thanks. Be right with you. Hello? Yeah, go ahead, Sergeant. What? Say that again. Okay, thank you. We won't have to go over your place, Barlow.
You won't.
What are you talking about, Kling?
Holiday is a Sergeant Garvin. He's very efficient.
So, what's that got to do with this?
Lots. I left word where I could be reached. He reached me.
What are you building up to?
I don't know, but it's not good for you.
Yeah, what's on your mind?
More to the point, what's on yours?
Now, look, I don't get this. What was that call about?
About Albert Winslow.
Go on.
You saw him dead at 2:15.
I said I did.
You want to change your story?
Now, look, why should I?
Because Albert Winslow reported to his parole officer no later and no earlier than 4:20 this afternoon.
And now back to Box 13 and Dan Holliday's latest adventure, The Dead Man Walks.
Yeah, that was it. The man I saw dead at 2:15 was alive again at 4:20. That's impossible. Kling said it was, and better than Kling, my own common sense said it was. So later that night, I went back to see Mrs. Corbett.
But you went to the police. You promised you wouldn't.
I'm sorry, but I had to. I saw your father.
Dead. Dead, you said.
I know that's a brutal way to put it, Mrs. Corbett, but the only way.
And the police?
There's nothing they can do or want to do. Your father reported to his parole officer. He has to do that once a month.
Please, please find him.
I think I did find him.
Oh, no. No, it can't be.
Mrs. Corbett, I've got to ask some questions. You've got to answer them.
Well, I'll try.
Good. Now, look, your father talked to someone on the phone. He didn't mention any names?
No.
Not even the name Thomas?
I'm sure of it.
One dead end after another. Do you know the names of any of your father's, well...
Accomplices?
Yes.
I don't remember any names, but I can tell you the place where they used to meet. Where he was arrested.
Where was it?
A house in Brennan Square. 618, I think.
Now, you said your father spoke to someone on the phone and said he wouldn't give them something.
But I don't know what he was talking about.
And you haven't heard from him at all?
No.
You're sure you'd get in touch with him?
Oh, I know it.
Okay, Mrs. Corbett. I'll try the lead you gave me. 618 Brennan Square. 618 Brennan Square was an old frame house that looked as though its last tenants had moved out to go to George Washington's inaugural. Its windows were boarded up, and the rusty iron fence in front bowed politely to the houses across the street. I walked up the stairs and knocked on the front door, never expecting an answer. I was about to turn away and chalk this off to exercise when...
Yeah? What do you want?
I'm looking for someone.
Ain't nobody here.
Mr. S. Thomas, perhaps?
Nobody. Now beat it.
Just a minute. Maybe you've got an Albert Winslow living here.
What was that name again?
Albert Winslow, as in Homer.
I don't get it.
You wouldn't. But do you know anyone by that name?
Maybe you better come in.
Maybe I should.
Come on.
Do you live here?
Caretaker, that's all.
I see.
What you stopping for?
I don't like haunted houses. This looks like one.
You're nuts.
Look, before we go any farther, maybe you'd like to tell me why you let me in when I mentioned the name of Albert Winslow.
Maybe he was a friend of mine.
I think I'd like a breath of fresh air.
Maybe you'll be lucky to get any breath at all, chum.
Oh, it's that way, huh?
This way.
What's the idea?
It was yours, chum. Now come on. Get in front of me. Come on. Company, Eddie. Looking for Al.
Getting crowded in here. Coming. I seen you before some point. Oh, yeah, you came in Barlow's shop this afternoon.
You didn't stay long, did you?
I took a sleeping tablet over the head. And you prescribed it, huh?
Yeah. I thought maybe you were just a guy, but now you come nudging in here. Charlie.
Right?
You asked for Earl, huh?
That's right.
Sit down. Charlie, see if Barlow's come to.
Okay.
Barlow? The pawn shop owner?
That's right. We couldn't get anything out of him, so we'll try you.
What do you mean?
Guess. Take a look at Barlow.
You gave him plenty to remember you by, didn't you?
Uh-huh. Now you keep looking at him and keep thinking how you'll look if you don't talk.
About what?
That's a starter. Now talk.
Sure, I still say about what?
I'll give you 5 minutes to tell us where the plates are.
Plates?
Yeah, plates.
Oh.
I don't know.
Barlow's stubborn. You gonna be that way, too?
Come on, let him alone.
Sure, but him and Winslow were pals. Winslow would tell him, maybe you know, too.
Look, I'm trying to find Winslow, that's all.
That's all, huh?
Why, you...
Sit still.
And take it. Now, come on, where are the plates? What did Winslow do with them? He hit him before he took the rap, and we want him.
Counterfeit plates?
Where are they?
I don't know.
All right, Charlie, go ahead. Go ahead and make him talk.
That's no use, Eddie. He won't spill.
Get rid of him, then.
No, either he or Barlow knows where Winslow's plates are.
Barlow doesn't know, neither do I.
I think he's telling the truth, Eddie.
Go through his pockets.
Okay. Identification cards. Name Dan Holliday.
Do your reading some other time. What else is it?
Look. Eddie, look.
517 Slack Street, S. Thomas, 945.
That's the pawn shop, Barlow's place.
Yeah. What's the rest of it mean?
I don't know.
You. What's this mean?
And if I tell you I don't know, I'll get battered around like a cue ball again.
Why, you...
Cut it out, Eddie.
Well, he knows.
Look, he went to Barlow's place this afternoon. If he knew where the plates were, he wouldn't be here, would he?
So?
They've got to be at Barlow's shop.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Okay, tie him up, both of them. And Mr. Holliday, if we come back without the plates, you walk out without your head.
They did a good job of tying Barlow and me to the chairs. Then, when they were gone, I talked with Barlow. Barlow, are you all right?
Yeah, I think so.
What happened? Who were those men?
They knew Albert Winslow years ago. He engraved counterfeit plates.
What happened in your shop?
I was in my shop early this afternoon. I hadn't seen Albert since he was released. Then he came into my shop. First, I didn't recognize him. Then he spoke to me.
You remember me, don't you, Barlow?
I seem to.
Take a good look.
Al Winslow.
How are you?
Fine, but you?
Parole.
Oh, I see.
It's all right, Barlow. I'm going straight.
Well, of course. Here, sit down. Back in the shop.
Wait a minute. I want to take a look around.
Yeah, what are you looking for, Al?
Things didn't change much around here, did they?
Well, what do you mean?
Nothing. Look, Barlow, I want to go straight, so there's something I got to tell you.
What's the matter? Oh, customers. I'll be back in a minute.
No, not customers.
But I...
Hello, Al. Eddie. This is Charlie. You remember Charlie? Sure.
Hi.
Sit down, Barlow. Take it easy.
What is this?
Sit down, Barlow. Do what he says.
That's right.
Okay, Al, where are they? I told you on the phone you can't have them. I'm going straight. I'm going to turn them over to the government. Sure. Beautiful plates like those? Not much, you are. Now, where are they? No, I won't tell you. Don't be a sap. We'll take them and get out. Then I'd be picked up again. The feds know my work. I'll have a great chance. I'm on parole. Please, let me alone. Just let me alone. Sure. When we get the plates. They in here? No. Barlow, what do you say? You don't know anything. Come on, Al. Where are they? Look, I got to report to my parole officer this afternoon. If I don't, they'll come after me. And you. Oh, cut it out.
Hey, Charlie, stop me! Al.
Oh, Eddie.
Why, you idiots, you muttonhead, you killed him.
I'll call the police.
Get Winslow behind the counter. Now, come on.
Eddie, there's somebody coming in.
Barlow, get out of sight. Charlie, get Winslow behind the counter. Now duck back of that screen. Come on.
Hello? Hello? Anybody here?
That was you, Mr. Holliday. Eddie hit you when you saw Winslow's body.
Uh-huh. That's where I came in. But later when I went back with Lieutenant Kling, what about that?
Well, I had to do what I did. They were upstairs. My wife was there. They threatened to...
I see. But Winslow reported to his parole officer that afternoon, after he was dead.
It was a telephone call they made from my shop. Charlie pretended to be Winslow. He told the officer he'd report in person in an hour. Then he hid Winslow's body in the basement. It's there now.
Oh, nice, clever people. Now, what about those plates? Do you know where they are?
No, but Winslow frequently came to see me. He was often in the shop alone and...
Barlow, I've got it. I know where those plates are.
Where?
Come on, let's get out of here first.
Yeah, but how?
Look, there's a drinking glass on that table. I'll square my chair over there and knock the glass on the floor to break it.
But I...
Hold it. Here I go. Okay, Barlow. Scrape over. Overturn your chair and get a piece of glass. Cut these ropes on my hand. I've got a date with a boy named Eddie. And he who slaps last slaps best.
Better wait outside the shop, Holiday.
Oh, no, Kling. I'm too fond of Eddie. A lump on my head and a welt across my face. Please, don't shoot him.
No, take it easy. Kelly, Macklin, take the back. Go ahead. You ready, Dan?
Yeah, let's go.
Cops! The back door, Eddie, come on!
Kling, there they go!
Why, you!
Hello, Eddie.
Dan, you need any help?
Just pick him up and steer him in my direction.
That's enough, boys. All cleaned up.
Eddie disappointed me.
Yeah, me too. He didn't hit you once. All right, out you go. Kelly, take Pretty Boy here and slap some jewelry on him. And, what are you looking at, Holiday?
Me? Why, I'm looking at Mr. S. Thomas.
Huh? I thought his name was Eddie.
I'm not looking at him, Kling. I told you I was looking at Mr. S. Thomas and 945.
Well, go on, Mr. Holliday. What then? Who was Mr. S. Thomas, and what did 945 mean?
Mr. S. Thomas, Susie, was a clock. One of the famous old Seth Thomas clocks. He was the only one in the shop whose hand stood at 9:45.
Yeah? And?
Well, Winslow had put his counterfeit plates on the pendulum arm, and that's where they were when we got them.
You mean they looked like a pendulum weight?
Exactly. It was very clever.
But gee, what if somebody had bought the clock?
Well, that was a chance he took, but no one did. And that's that.
There's one more thing that puzzles me.
One?
Yeah. Suppose Eddie and Charlie got the plates and made counterfeit money from them.
So?
Would they have to declare it for income tax?
Income? Oh, good night, Susie.
Next week, same time, through the courtesy of Paramount Pictures, Alan Ladd stars as Dan Holliday in Box 13. Box 13 is directed by Richard Sandville, with this week's original story by Russell Hughes. Original music is composed and conducted by Rudy Schrager. Part of Susie is played by Sylvia Picker, and that of Lieutenant Kling by Edmund MacDonald. Production is supervised by Vern Karstensen. Box 13 is a Mayfair production from Hollywood. Watch for Alan Ladd in his latest Paramount picture.
Welcome back. Another solid performance by Alan Ladd as Dan Holliday. Speaking of that, for those of you who have the app or our premium site, we're actually going to sweeten the deal on September's extra. I was actually just going to do Alan Ladd on Burns and Allen. But I've decided that we're going to go ahead and we'll include an episode of Cavalcade of America, which featured Alan Ladd. It was Ladd's only guest appearance on the Cavalcade of America, and that was just released, a wonderful quality release by the Old Time Radio researchers. Well, before we do get into today's show, I want to let you know a little bit about our sponsors. I know not everyone out there is a PC user. So this is good news from Michael Crandall, CEO of RightScale, who writes of GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting on Mac is a dynamite combination, pairing the easy-to-use control panel with the simplicity of the Mac. I found meetings extremely easy to set up, schedule with others, and run. The new VoIP capability works perfectly on my MacBooks Pro and actually sounds better and is easier to access than a normal conference bridge. Well, whether you have a PC or a Mac, give GoToMeeting a try. Listeners to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio can get a 45-day free trial. Go to gotomeeting.com/podcast. That's gotomeeting.com/podcast to start your trial. Well, we were done with yours truly Johnny Dollar rehearsals for a while, but here we have a Jeff Regan rehearsal. And we have some goofing around and some technical stuff going on in the background. But hopefully that doesn't distract too much from the story. This week's episode is called The Man in the Black Suit, though it's often on old-time radio sites listed as just The Man in Black. But it's The Man in the Black Suit. We'll listen and we'll come back.
There's a lot of guys in L.A. who wear black suits. Ushers, waiters, floor walkers, and the crew down at the coroner's office. Petticini wore a black suit, but he didn't do any of those things. He had a different angle. I found that out the first time I saw him. A big guy with a lot of black hair and a pair of hands he could have rented out to a shovel company. It all started last Thursday in a one-arm joint on 6th Street. I was working on a cup of coffee that would have been Exhibit A for the Restaurant Commission when the skinny guy who runs the place got ambitious.
Hey, Bud. Something to go with your coffee or bear claw, maybe, huh?
I'll chew on the coffee a while.
I made it myself. I got a special recipe. It's a secret.
Save it for the next war. We'll need some weapons.
Oh. Try to please the public, and what do you get? Nothing but talk. Everybody gotta have an answer. I'm gonna be a big man in this business someday, and I'm...
Sure. Your phone's ringing. Maybe it's J.P. Morgan.
Oh, you're a wise guy or something, huh?
Right, so it's only a girl.
I ain't got one. A girl ties you down, you can't get nowhere. It's a bad business. Hello, ye Bear Claw Coffee Shop, you who? I'll ask him. Hey, Bud, is your name Regan?
Who wants to know?
A guy named Lyon.
Hang up on him.
Bad business, hanging up on people. Here.
Okay. Yeah?
Oh, Jeffrey, I'm glad I finally located you. I know this is your day off.
I'm busy. So long.
Now, wait. Don't hang up. I wouldn't think of interfering with anything you have planned today. I just thought I might be able to help you relax, relieve the tension.
What's in it for you?
Oh, now, Jeffrey. I intend to watch the workouts at the Lacey Street Gym today, but I can't make it myself. Now, if you care to go, just use my name at the main gate. They'll let you right in.
Who's the client?
Client? Client? I didn't say anything about a client. Of course, if you want someone to talk to, someone who knows the ins and outs of the fine, manly sport of boxing, there's a chap named Petticini. Be sure and look him up. Give him my best regards. Old friend, roomed together in college.
What college?
What college? Well, at the moment it escapes me.
So did I. So long.
Now, wait. No, the truth is, Jeffrey, I don't really know this Petticini guy at all. He retained us. But I thought you could enjoy yourself at the gym. Meet Petticini, talk to him, find out what he wants. Then the first thing tomorrow, you can start right in, show him the kind of service International.
That's bad business, you're hanging up on people.
Oh, shut up.
Every time I get hot under the collar, I always sit down and drink myself a cup of coffee. You want some?
I'm not that hot.
Oh, is that going to be for you, that him calling back, huh?
Try hello. He'll pick it up from there.
Hey, where you going? What do I say to him?
Try hello. He'll pick it up from there.
That's what you just said.
Yeah. I had my choice of talking to the Lion again or going straight out to the Lacey Street Gym and talking to a guy named Petticini. I already knew what the Lion had to say. So I drove out Sunset past Alvarado, found it in the middle of the block. Big pile of cement that might have been a soundstage once. I drifted through the gate and started up the ramp. That's when a little guy wearing a hat he could have used for a snoot stuck out a hand.
Price is 50 cents. 50 cents to what?
I worked for Anthony J. Lyon. He said to use his name.
All right, you used it. 4 bits.
You always this nice?
I won first prize this week.
You must have cheated.
Look, the name's Joey Arch. Used to fight bantamweight. Now, you're tempting me, and it'll be an assault with a deadly weapon if I hit you.
I'll wire for help.
Oh, cut it out. All the time answers.
Look, I came here to see a guy named Petticini.
And Joey's making it tough for you, is that it?
Huh?
My name's Petticini. You looking for me?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Lyon sent me.
You be Regan? Joey apologized, don't you, Joey?
Yeah, but this guy... Oh. Okay, Regan. I think I'm still fighting something.
Thanks for coming. Look, I've been working out with the boys. I want to get out of these clothes and catch a shower. My office is upstairs. I'll be right up. Make yourself at home.
It wasn't much of an office. A couple of rooms with a connecting wastebasket. Figured Petticini wasn't going to retire from what he made out of the boxing business. I was just finishing my cigarette when he walked in. This time he wasn't wearing the sweatsuit. He was wearing a black one. But he skipped the white carnation. I didn't figure to do much for that white collar he was wearing backwards. Father Petticini?
Yes, that's right.
I didn't know you were a priest down there.
Well, you can't punch a bag wearing a cassock. You're surprised, aren't you? I'm 38 years old, Regan, and I get surprised every day.
There's no other Petticini around here.
No, I'm the one you're supposed to see.
Well, maybe the Lion didn't know you were a priest either.
Well, come to think of it, I may not have mentioned it when I phoned him.
I thought so. Well, Father, we'd be glad to help, but I'm not sure you have anything to be in our line.
This is in your line.
Oh? All right, Father, what can I do for you?
Find Davy Lang. Do you know him?
Middleweight?
Mm-hmm.
One who topped Al Shummer 2 nights ago.
That's him.
A guy like Davy'd be hard to lose.
Not so very. You know anything about him?
Well, I've seen him fight. He's a comer. Turned pro a couple of years ago, that's all.
I'll tell you the rest. He's got a good right hand, and he keeps in training. He's one of my boys, Regan, and I want him back.
Well, a guy like Davy can take care of himself.
Nobody can take care of himself. Davy's on parole, Regan. He made a mistake once.
And you don't want him to make another one.
He's due to report at the parole office before Saturday.
Well, what's he waiting for, an engraved invitation?
I don't know, Regan. I haven't talked to him lately.
Oh, he's disappeared.
Yeah.
They gave him a rule book when they let him loose. He knows what he's doing.
And you and I both know what it means if he antagonizes those people. It'd be rotten if they sent him back up. Rotten.
You can only do one job, Father.
I'll do a dozen if I have to. That's why I wear this collar. Have you got a light?
Yeah.
Thanks. You know, I was raised on this street, Regan. I've known a lot of guys like Davy Lang, kids who make little mistakes that turned into big mistakes.
You figure Davy Lang hasn't made that big one yet?
I figure David Lang isn't going to make that big one. That's why I sent for you, Regan. Here's a check. If it takes more, I'll get it.
No, thanks.
You won't help me?
Well, I didn't say that. When did he turn up missing, Father?
Right after his bout last Tuesday night. I'm his manager and trainer till he gets going. He dropped Al Shummer in the 4th. 10 minutes later, I went to his dressing room and he was gone. I haven't seen him since.
Anybody else see him? Doorman, cab driver?
No. I thought he'd call me, but he hasn't. I've been over to his place 3 times, no answer.
What do his people say?
His parents dead. He lives alone at this address. Here. You've seen him in the ring. You know what he looks like.
Yeah. Does he have a girl?
I don't know.
Anything else that would help?
Yes. Davy's a good boy.
I told you I'll do the job, Father.
You'll do it better if you believe in him.
Suppose it turned out different.
Suppose I tell you about a middleweight named Ignatius Loyola.
Look, nobody's going to put Davy's picture on a church window.
You don't have to be a saint to make the finals.
Even the Bible says sin's here to stay.
And that's why people like me will always have a job to do.
All right, Father. I'll let you know when I have something.
Thanks, Regan. Oh, Regan.
Yeah?
You didn't ask me why I didn't call in the police.
I didn't have to. Davy's not in violation until Saturday.
Crosby did it. I don't know why I couldn't.
I left him standing there blowing smoke rings. A kind of smile came on his face, like maybe he just got some inside dope and something real big. But I didn't feel like smiling. I climbed in my car and drove down to Missing Persons Bureau. They hadn't picked up anybody who looked like Davy Lang. Then I went through the dead and unclaimed records over at the city morgue. Nothing there. Lincoln Heights and City Jail, all the hospitals turned up the same. Nothing. It was after 7 when I got to the address Father Petticini had given me. A red brick apartment house in South Marathon. Davy's place was on the 2nd floor. I pulled out a ring of skeletons and won my letter on the 3rd key. I didn't expect to find anything. I was wrong. A blue suit with a scar across his face was standing in the middle of the room. It was dark in there, but I could still see that .45. Then I began to feel nervous, like a hula dancer in a forest fire.
All right, Nosy, close the door. Walk over to that wall. That's right. Okay. Now, tell me you're the landlord. Milkman? Friend of Davy's? That way, huh? Well,
Listen, Bust.
Don't you guys ever learn?
My knees folded like an army cot. I began to see pinwheels all over the place. He knelt down beside me and went through my pockets. I heard him grunt when he found my gun. Then he lit a match to read my billfold. He didn't like what he found there, either.
Your name is Regan, and you're gum healing for Davy Lang. Who sent you?
Oh.
I asked you one question. Who sent you, Regan? Was it Mel Lawrence? Did she hire you? No. She'd have more brains than that. Ah, that priest, wasn't it? Davy ain't got no family. It was a sky pilot who hired you, wasn't it? Petticini. Yeah. Petticini. Why didn't I think of that, huh? Petticini!
It was a good show, but I didn't catch the last act. I did remember the advance publicity. Any kind of preview tell you Davy Lang hadn't just run out on a police and parole board. There was a lot more I had to find out, and it figured Father Petticini wasn't going to like the way it wound up. It was an ice age later. I rolled over and found out I had some legs. Then I found a bottle of scotch on top of the stove, and that helped a lot. I tugged on it while I went around the place. There were 3 suits and an empty suitcase in the closet, and some shirts and things in one of the drawers. Wherever Davy'd gone, he was traveling light. I was trying to fit in the guy with the scar when I remembered him talking about a girl named Mel Lawrence. I polished off the scotch and tried the telephone book. I was lucky. It said Mel Lawrence lived over on Melrose. I was still rocking on my heels when I rang a bell.
Bell?
When I saw that blonde hair, I began to feel better. She stood there and looked at me a while like I was breathing some air I shouldn't. And she turned halfway around and gave me a profile.
I wasn't expecting company, or I'd change clothes.
You got something better in there?
Do you like the way I wear my hair?
Fits your face.
How about my face? Do you like it?
It's nice.
I'm looking for a new boyfriend. Mine ran out on me. Come on in. I keep my scotch over there and my bourbon over there. I'm a model. I work 3 or 4 days a week, and the rest of the time, I don't have anything to do.
Well, if things are that good, why'd your boyfriend leave?
You tell me.
Maybe I can help.
Sure you can. Just put your arms around me and kiss me.
My name's not Davy.
Shut up and kiss me.
Well, that wasn't the trouble.
Now, tell me I'm pretty.
You're pretty.
Tell me you like me a lot.
I like you a lot.
Tell me you like to kiss me. Tell me that Davy used to tell me. Tell me all that, and then tell me why he didn't pick me up. Why'd he clear out? Where's he gone?
Sit down.
What's the matter with me? What have I got that other girls haven't got?
I said sit down.
You hit me.
It's time to talk sense.
Who are you anyway?
My name's Regan. I'm looking for Davy Lyon.
What do you want with him?
Father Petticini hired me to find him.
Father Petticini. He wants to make sure Davy keeps his nose clean.
He didn't mention your name.
I never met him. Davy's told me a lot about him. Only Davy isn't around anymore to tell me about him now. Davy ran out on him. He ran out on me.
Maybe he didn't.
Oh, yes, he did. When Davy goes someplace, he just goes. That's all. You aren't going to find him.
A blue suit with a .45 and a scar said different.
I met him
I
tonight.
met him tonight over at Davy's place. You know Davy's playmates. Who is he?
I don't know a man with a scar.
Who is he?
I don't know.
You aren't helping Davy.
I'm not Petticini. I couldn't help anyone. Go on, Regan. Get out of here. Get out of here. I don't feel very good. I don't feel very good at all.
Well, I knew she had some more to say, but I knew she wasn't going to say it then. So I left her sitting there and got in my car and drove home. I wanted to think. I wanted to get one good reason that said Davy Lang wasn't playing on the wrong team. When the Lyon's around, you don't do any thinking. The Lion was around.
Jeffrey, I'm glad you got home. I wanted to talk to you about Petticini. He's a priest, isn't he?
Yeah, why?
Run any expenses yet?
No.
Good, then we'll drop it. I'll phone him first thing in the morning, recommend another agency. I've been thinking...
You've been thinking wrong. We're staying with this one.
Well, now, see here. I'm the president of International Detective Bureau, and I can't collect a bonus from a member of the clergy. It wouldn't seem right.
You better not try.
Oh, I wouldn't. Those men take the vow of poverty. But we haven't taken any vow of poverty, and the agency has expenses.
Now, get this. We're hired to find Davy Lang, and we're going to find him.
Why? Why should we?
Because everything doesn't add up to a dollar sign.
No? What doesn't?
A priest named Petticini. A guy named Davy Lang who's got a date with a parole board.
Now, wait a minute, Regan, wait. You've been touched by this thing.
Get out of here.
There's something in all this has got to you. The humanity of the thing. Oh, I can see it now, Regan. Your picture on the front page. Me standing beside you. Brotherhood.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, don't shout. The agency held up to public acclaim. Perhaps the paper starts a fund to repay us for our humble efforts.
Out.
Hey, Jeffrey, I haven't finished. You can't shove me out the door that way. Jeffrey, let me in. What's the meaning of this?
But I didn't tell him. I was thinking of Davy Lang in a blue suit with a scar, and Father Petticini in a blonde who had a lot of tears. It was all out of focus, like a 10-cent movie. Blue suit sounded like he knew Davy, but I didn't like the way he'd said it. I was trying to figure why Davy'd run, and that's when I got on the phone and checked a bookmaker I know on Main Street.
Hiya, baby. What's up?
Davy Lang. Al Shummer bought last Tuesday.
Lang bounced him in the fourth.
Well, how did it figure before the fight?
Oh, let's see. Lang was favored. Plenty of 8-5 around town.
More than usual?
Yeah. Some real coarse coin on that one. Anything wrong, baby?
Yeah.
What?
It came out right.
Huh? Hey, I don't get it.
Neither do I. No, I'm going to throw that one away. But an hour later, it started to work through. Figured that Al Shummer, the other fighter, might be able to fill in some bald spots. I got his address from the Times sports desk and went down to his hotel, a place on Soda Street. But Al Shummer was through answering questions. He was lying on the floor when I got there. A knife the size of a baseball bat was sticking out the front of him. And he had company. Father Petticini, picking up where that knife left off.
You'd better phone the police, Regan.
Who did it? When did it happen? What?
Regan, just call the police, that's all. All right, I'll do it.
But, Father...
I know enough law for this one, Regan. I'm suspect number one.
This is CBS, and you are listening to the story of the Man in Black. Tonight's adventure with Jeff Regan, investigator. Now, here's a special word for those of you who are interested in setting up a retirement fund. One that will permit you to have some of the good things of life before you're too old to enjoy them. I'll give you her name later. Are you satisfied with what you've been able to save so far? It's not easy to save these days, but here's a way you can do it. Start now and save before you spend by putting your savings on an automatic basis. Join the payroll savings plan where you work and invest in United States savings bonds. Under this plan, your firm sets aside whatever sum you name from each paycheck and uses the money to buy savings bonds for you. The bonds keep growing in value, paying you back $4 for every $3 you save in just 10 years. Buy United States bonds. An investment in bonds is an investment in the future of your country. Buy United States bonds and keep them. And now back to tonight's story of the Man in Black and Jeff Regan, investigator? Had to do that.
When I walked in that hotel room and found Father Petticini standing over what was left of Al Shummer, it didn't take 20/20 vision to see Davy Lang was running hard. And Petticini was blocking for him. Well, I phoned homicide and they showed up 10 minutes later. Sanducci was handling it. He changed 8 shades when he saw who he had to ask questions. But Sanducci's a cop. Took him 13 years to get that double-breasted suit. And he started in.
All right, all of you. Clear out, beat it. We'll dress it up later. Well, Father, you know what I gotta do?
We all have our jobs, Lieutenant.
I'm going to ask you first, Regan.
Well, I came over to see Al Shummer.
And he found me beside the body. I was administering extreme unction.
He was still alive?
I wasn't sure, in a case like
yes,
that.
I know, Father. What business you got with Al Shummer?
He called me, asked me to come.
Why?
I don't know. I found him this way.
Regan, how about you?
Oh, I wanted to talk to him.
About what?
Fight.
A fight, huh? That's all there is to it. Tu sei un grande bugiardo.
I speak Italian, too. Se tu vuoi sapere qualunque, allora domanda da me.
Se tu domande, non sono esauriente.
Provatemi.
Padre, io ho una missione e lo devo fare. Regan, io ti domando un'altra volta. Look, once more, Regan. Tell me why you want to see Shummer.
Regan works for me. Ask me the question.
All right, I ask you.
Not here. Down at headquarters, Lieutenant.
Headquarters? You want me to arrest you?
Regan found me in a room with a murdered man. That's enough to take me down for.
But All right, Father. I take you into custody.
And Regan, you know what you have to do.
I know, Father.
Well, let's get busy.
Father?
Yes.
I've made 1,000 arrests in my day. I've taken them in for everything. You sure you want me to do this?
Like you said, we all have our jobs to do.
When he said that, he was looking right at me. And I began to get a helpless feeling, like a butterfly in a wind tunnel. Well, when we got downtown, Sanducci waved a hand at a prowl car and had the driver turn into the garage instead of going in the front way. Then he climbed out and talked to some uniform standing in the office. They came over and got Father Petticini. As soon as they were out of sight, Sanducci turned to me.
All my life I've been a cop, Regan. All the time I play it one way. I ask and they talk. If they don't, I lock them up till they do. Tonight I play it different.
You didn't ask any favors.
Those guys are taking him up to my office. No newspaper guys or anybody else is going to know he's in there.
Then what?
I won't ask him anything, and neither will anybody else around here. Right now.
What about tomorrow?
I'm off duty then. Before I leave, I have to ask him something.
He won't tell you.
This is homicide. Who's he covering for, Regan? He's counting on you to turn up something. You find what he wants, Regan. You find it fast and you find it alone. You got 3 hours to do whatever it is. And the morning squad comes in. You like reports, and you can't stop reports. Now, Regan.
Yeah?
No falla manganza.
What does that mean?
Better not make a mistake.
Sanducci was bending over backwards to give me time. 3 hours to find Davy Lyon. That meant I had to forget the routine stuff and try other ways. I got to Melrose as fast as I could. It took her 5 minutes to answer the door. She didn't look happy.
What are you doing back here?
I forgot my homework.
Say you can't.
I just did.
Why,
Now, look, lady, we can pass up the preliminaries, get to the main event.
You...
I want information. I want it fast. Where's Davy?
I don't know. I lost my head and told you too much when you were here before.
Where's Davy?
You're hurting my arm.
I'll break it if I have to. If you love him, tell me where he is.
I don't know. Really, I don't. It's just like I told you.
Come on.
All right. I was afraid.
Talk.
Davy told me he meant to throw that fight with Al Shummer Tuesday night. That he'd make a lot of money doing it. That we'd go away and get married, maybe. That's all I know.
That isn't enough. The odds were with Davy. He won.
Well, then ask Al Shummer what happened.
He's all used up. Somebody stuck a knife in him tonight.
What?
And homicide's holding the priest.
Father Petticini?
You know why?
I don't.
Because he thinks Davy boy is still number one on the good parade. Now, you and I know different. Now, tell me the real setup.
I can't. I don't know.
Then I'll tell you. Davy was going to throw that fight. Then he found someone who'd pay him more to play it the other way. So we got together with Shummer. Shummer laid down on the fourth. Davy walked out on you and everybody.
Maybe he did. But he didn't kill Shummer.
I think he did. Shummer was going to talk.
Davy wouldn't kill a man. He's not bad.
I heard that before.
But he's not bad.
He didn't show up for you, did he?
No, but...
He double-crossed Petticini by fixing a fight. Then he doubled back, didn't throw the fight. He was probably trying to double on Shummer tonight when he stuffed that shiv in his ribs.
No, that's not Davy. Not Davy at all.
No, lady. No, that's not Davy. Of course not. Davy's a real good boy. Well, I thought I had most of it when I left there. You'd figured Davy'd got a bright idea somewhere along the line and bet on himself to win. That meant he had to make a deal with Al Shummer. Only Shummer wasn't around to talk about it anymore. I figured if I walked into the station and gave that much to Petticini, he'd let Homicide handle it from there. But I was wrong.
Regan, did you find him?
No.
Something's happened to him.
He's blown town.
I can't believe that.
Father, he was fixing a fight right under your nose.
Davy?
He was going to take a dive, but he didn't.
And Shummer, was he in on it?
Well, they must have tussled over the payoff.
What else?
Well, he's ratted on everybody he knows, including his girlfriend.
We haven't heard Davy's story.
He couldn't write one good enough.
Isn't it that late?
Father, you can call in Sanducci right now. You can tell him what I've told you.
They send out a pickup on Davy.
You'll have to sooner or later.
And what about the parole board?
He's broken that. Shummer's dead.
We don't know if he did that.
Who else?
It doesn't fit Davy.
All the rest of it does.
That can be cleared up.
You take a lot of convincing.
You're a detective, Regan. You always come up with facts. All I've got is faith.
In him?
I can't believe he'd kill a man.
I'll get Sanducci.
All right, Regan. All right.
Hey, Sergeant, You want...
Through, Regan?
Yeah. Where's Sanducci?
In his office. I'll call him for you. Okay, mouthpiece. Right in there. Pardon me, please. Who the hell are these people?
Sure,
All right, I've stopped to watch. Where is... Come on. Jack, up on mic, boy.
Who's the guy? Page 28.
Bottom of 27.
I'm sorry. Who's the
Let's get on mic. We're recording.
Yeah.
Huh?
Come on, let's go. Bottom of 27. Pardon me, please. Sure, Sarge.
Yeah?
Never mind calling.
Suit yourself, Regan.
When did Father Petticini send for a mouthpiece?
He didn't. Guy just showed up, said he was a lawyer, wanted to see him. Why? I don't know. All right to send him in, wasn't it?
I didn't answer that because the guy who'd passed me in the hall had his coat collar turned up. The glasses made it look good. But if he was a lawyer, he'd gone through law school in one day. I waited around outside. He wasn't in there long. 10 minutes later, he brushed out the door. I was waiting for him at the corner. Hello, Davy. How's murder these days? Easy, kid. This is a gun.
You're no cop.
I don't know what you told him in there, but I don't listen easy.
Oh. You must be Regan. You've been looking for me.
Yeah. You slip around fast.
That gun doesn't make you look that good.
I saw the guy with the shiv in him. You might have used the same line on him.
Father Petticini told me how you figured it. I can't blame you. I know it must have looked that way.
You got something different?
I'll tell it to you. I don't expect you to believe it.
Did he believe it?
About me fixing up the fight? That's right. I was going to lay down for $2,000.
But you didn't. Who offered you $4?
I deserve that. But you got it wrong.
Tell me how.
I was up there in the ring sparring with him. It was one of those crazy things. I wanted to make it look good, and... well, Shummer's got a glass jaw. One connected, and he went down for the count.
Sounds like a fairy tale.
I told you it wouldn't be easy. I had to run after the fight. Benton doesn't like things not to work out. When Shummer went down, the guy who was paying me lost a pile of dough.
Wait a minute. The guy who was paying you...
Toby Denton.
A guy with a scar.
Yeah. He's after me.
Yeah. Yeah, he sure is.
What's the matter?
Well, my arithmetic's lousy. When I added this thing up, I put you in, but I left the scar out.
What's that mean?
It figured you killed Shummer to stop him from talking.
I didn't. I can't prove it, but I didn't.
Well, whoever did called the Padre to come over there. The guy who killed Shummer wanted the Padre taken in.
Why? Why would he want...
Because he knew hooking the Padre was a sure way to smoke you out of hiding. It was all a setup to get you.
Toby Denton.
Yeah. Toby Denton.
You figured it smart, people, but you got there too late.
What? It was Denton. He was still wearing the blue suit and the scar. But this time he had help, a muscle in a trench coat. They were both carrying heavy artillery.
Been waiting 10 minutes for you two to finish up. Trench?
Yeah?
We'll just have to take Regan along with us.
All right, straight ahead.
Wait a minute, Toby. Regan had nothing to do with this. I'm the guy you want.
Don't worry, we'll take good care of him. Me and Regan met once, didn't we, Peter?
How do you feel, Regan?
Better than you will when they strap you down in that gas chamber, Tony. Toby.
You hear that, Trench?
Come on, Toby, let's move.
We'll stay right here, Toby.
Move.
You know I can hardly handle myself. Gun butt wouldn't get me to. You'll have to shoot. There's a cop station half a block away. Leave Regan, I'll go with you.
I always wanted to plug somebody right outside a cop station.
The kid was fast. He went after Toby with all he had. I got busy with the tall guy in the trench coat. He wasn't fast, but he was big, and he kept me busy. I landed a lucky kick that turned him green in a second, and after that it was easy. I turned around to give the kid a hand, but I was a second too late.
Regan!
Davy took them both in his chest. That's when Toby spun around and tried for me, but this time he was too late. Lie still, kid. I'll get a doctor.
Regan, I've done everything wrong. I didn't want him to get you, too.
Don't talk. You made up for it all.
I'm not bad. All the way?
No. Like the Padre always said. You're a good boy. Well, the ambulance got him to emergency hospital, and they went to work on him. I waited around with Father Petticini all night until a nurse walked out, said that they were going to have to give Davy some transfusions, but he'd live. Then I got over to headquarters and explained the whole thing to Sanducci. He said it didn't make sense, but when I got Father Petticini on the phone, they talked it over in Italian, and Sanducci seemed satisfied. So it was about 10 in the morning when I dropped in on the Lyon on the way home. He was stretched out on a couch in his office. It was sagging in the middle. So was the Lyon.
Oh, Jeffrey, don't disturb me. I'm ill, Jeffrey, ill.
Now what's the matter with you?
Oh, it's that man Petticini. He's a fiend, Jeffrey. Man's got an uncanny power. 'Tisn't that?
Wait a minute. Where did you see Petticini?
At the hospital, of course. I checked with headquarters and found out what had happened, so I just thought I'd go over there.
You mean you took his money after all?
Took his money? Are you being funny? I walked in, the first thing I knew, he'd Sven-Gollied me into the operating room.
The operating room?
Yeah, I'm a type O, Jeffrey. Me, the same blood type as Davy Lang. And you think you made this thing turn out right. Well, what are you grinning about? I don't see anything funny.
You wouldn't. But cheer up, Fatso.
Why? Why should I?
The hospital pays $25 for a pint of blood. You may get something out of this yet.
Okay, sister.
CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. I love that scene where Fettuccine and the homicide detective were talking at each other in Italian, very animatedly. Not quite heard Italian spoken like that on the radio. And this is probably one of the better scripts. This had a lot going for it. The storyline, I think, packed an emotional punch with the lost boy and the priest. Really a moving story, and still some of those great lines, like Regan's comment for the guy to save his secret coffee recipe because we were going to have a war and eventually, and we're going to need a secret weapon. Classic stuff. So very well done. All right, well, we have a few more comments, but I want to let you know what's going to be ahead on Tuesdays this upcoming season. Well, after we finish Jeff Regan, which we've got 10 more weeks after today of Jeff Regan, there is a radio series of Father Brown that aired over Mutual. There's only 2 episodes out there, but this year is Father Brown's 100th anniversary, so we'll want to honor that and to commemorate that with 2 weeks of Father Brown. Well, then what's going to happen? Well, that's kind of up to you. I generally have reasons for the way that I schedule the shows. I've got some symmetries that I'm wanting to preserve in the way the shows are played. However, I was thinking about the show that I was planning on doing after Father Brown, and I realized I could just as easily do something else, and either would work fine. So I'm going to throw the choice to you, the audience. After Father Brown, would you like to hear Nero Wolfe or Candy Matson? You get to pick. Now, the show that doesn't win it's not a situation where they won't be played. They'll just be played about a year later. So it's going to be Nero Wolfe versus Candy Matson. I know some people aren't familiar with the shows, so I've gone ahead and I've set up a page, Candy v. Nero, so candyvnero.greatdetectives.net, where you can download a sample episode of each show, and then you can go to Podcast Alley to decide. Now, this is only for September. You can listen to the shows in August, but you can only cast your vote in September, because some people have already cast their August votes, and I don't want to be unfair to anybody, or to penalize people for voting early in the month. Ideally, we want that. And we'll have details as to how you can include your vote on Podcast Alley. But if you'd like to know about both series, go to candyvnero.greatdetectives.net. That's candyvnero.greatdetectives.net. And voting begins on Podcast Alley September 1st. And I'll have more details for that before September starts. All right, well, we have some more comments. Tony says, Adam, great job bringing us some really excellent programming. I really appreciate the hard work and dedication you put into all of your podcasts. You're doing a great service by keeping these shows in circulation. I also think it's really great how you put up some old movies. I was recently sloughing through a long bus ride, and my favorite brunette, along with a few episodes of Box 13 and Dragnet, did a great job keeping me company and allowed me to politely ignore the guy who wanted to talk to me. If you pin up the locations on a map of your listeners, put one on Kensington, Brooklyn. Not quite exotic, but there's a pretty good Thai restaurant on the corner of Church and East 2nd Avenue. Thanks, Tony, and always glad to give publicity to good dining. And just 3 quick comments from Podcast Alley. Very good podcast, my favorite. Keep up the great work. Go Adam, and great podcast. Thank you for those comments. Got a review on iTunes from Beacho. I love the old radio shows. Sometimes the quality is not best, but probably due to the age of the recordings. Good podcast overall. Thanks. And yeah, sometimes the quality is not quite as good as we want, but not necessarily just so much the age of the recording, but as well as just the quality of the transfers. Because I've heard some recordings close to 80 years old that sound beautiful, and some that are only 50 years old that sound horrible. So it's what has made it out into circulation. But thanks for the comments and for the support. Well, I have a few things to discuss. I'm not going to way down the start of the program, but be sure to listen after. I realized that yesterday when I announced the shows we were going to be doing on Tuesday, I stopped after I told you about the Candy Matson versus Nero Wolfe contest we're going to have coming up in September. But even with Father Brown and that show, we still won't be all the way through the 2010-11 season. So I'll let you know about the other shows we have coming up. Also, I'm got an announcement of a change to the way we're doing our premium side. I think most people will find it good news. I can't think of anybody who would find it otherwise. But listen to that. Before we do get started, I want to let you know about our sponsors. Imagine not having to travel and being able to meet with anyone you need to anywhere in the world, whether it's a client or a business partner or a friend or someone you're mentoring. This is the promise of GoToMeeting, a safe and secure service that allows you to hold unlimited meetings over the web and over voice. Listeners to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio can try it out. Take it for a test drive. See if it will help you. Go to gotomeeting.com/podcast. That's gotomeeting.com/podcast and start your free trial today. Now we're going to get into today's episode of Let George Do It, Mayhem by Experts.
Standard of California, on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West, invites you to Let George Do It. Mayhem by Experts, another adventure of George Valentine.
Personal notice, danger's my stock and trade. If you're coming up for the third time and need somebody's help, call on me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Dear Mr. Valentine, I know the exact time of your morning mail. I've checked on that. You'll have a very short time to get to me and keep me from being murdered. Believe me, I have very good reason to be terrified. I can't think of anyone else to help me.
Anyone else to help me, and I'll do my best to make it worth your while. Be sure to come alone, otherwise there's nothing you can do for me. And it's signed Madge Damon.
Uh-huh. Well, we've gotten a few cockeyed letters, Brooksy, but this one belongs in a showcase. We got a deadline, no less.
But suppose the mailman decided to stop off at the drugstore for a cup of coffee.
Well, this man seems to have unwavering faith in our postal service. Here, let me see that letter. 426 Duane Street.
George, that's a full half-hour's drive from here.
If you make every light. Sit tight, Angel. I'm going to find out what this is all about. Abrams, 3C, Murphy, 2D. Well, here we are in Damon. Come on, lady, answer, will you?
No use trying the hall phone, mister.
What?
Ain't been working for years. Being a janitor, I ought to know. Maybe I ought to think about fixing it one of these days.
Yeah, well, don't work too hard, Buster. I want to get to 4C. Where's the elevator?
Over there. But may as well warn you, young fella, tain't working.
Huh?
Another thing I ought to get around to fixing one of these days.
Okay, I'll walk. I'm in a hurry.
Something fierce the way work piles up on a man's back.
Careful, mister. Wet floor.
Oh.
And watch out for the pail.
Oh, I'm sorry to step over you, Mother. Which way is 4C?
Oh, Miss Damon, hide down a few doors. But it ain't going to do you any good. She just left.
What's that?
Just left, bags and all. There was a dark, tough-looking fella going out with her.
She didn't happen to mention where she was going, did she?
Oh, look out, mister. You don't get slopped with the mob.
Oh, okay, Mother, okay. But I asked you a question, remember?
Well, come to think of it, I do happen to remember she said she was going to Union Station. She looked mighty like she was crying.
Well, tell me something else. What does this Miss Damon look like? What's she wearing?
Oh, she's blonde, in a dark sort of way. Short, but not one of them real short kind, mind you. She's,
great.
Well, she was wearing one of them big floppy hats. Oh, she can get away with them, too, because, like I said, she's short, but not too short.
Yeah, well, thanks very much. Now I can pick her right out of a crowd.
Oh, Miss Brooks, sister, this is wonderful. Valentine called you from the Union Station, huh? Oh, brother, that means he didn't catch wise.
If you'll stop splitting your sides for a minute, Lieutenant Riley, I'd like to know what this is all about.
Well, there's no such woman as Madge Damon. I dictated that letter to my secretary.
You certainly can be funny.
Oh, sure.
What's so brilliant about a stunt like that?
Well, he didn't even recognize Sergeant Williams dressed up as a janitor or policewoman Ferris scrubbing the floors. And I know he's seen them both around headquarters at least a dozen times. Oh, brother. Oh, that's your big sleuth for you.
All right, you're a jester and your life is complete. Why don't you give me a hot foot? I won't look.
Oh, look, you don't get it. All this was merely incidental. I had to get Valentine out of the office this morning. Oh, but wait, honey, wait till you hear my real payoff.
Oh, I'm sure it's going to slay me.
All right, Miss Brooks, what day is it?
Day? Well, it's Monday.
I knew it. You forgot just as he did.
Forgot what?
It's Valentine's birthday. I checked on it just to make sure.
Oh, no. Oh, it can't be. Oh, I've got to get out of here and get him a present. Where's my coat?
Relax, honey, relax. This time it's yours truly who's giving Valentine a present.
Yeah, how sweet.
Yes, sir. Look here in this box.
A birthday cake?
Yes, sir. And in just a few minutes, five top-notch mystery writers, all big shots in the field, are going to be here to attend Valentine's surprise birthday party.
Mystery writers? Lieutenant, you sound like you're running a fever.
No. I've done them favors in the past, and they're just dying to come along for the fun.
After what you did this morning, I'm suspicious of what you consider fun.
Come on now. Come on. Where's your sense of humor? Look, we're going to stage a phony murder, see?
With you as a victim.
And I'm betting Valentine is going to fall for it hook, line, and sinker.
Pardon me while I laugh.
Yes, sir. Look, you see, I'm going to examine the supposed victim and announce that he's dead. And I could just see Valentine going into action without even checking, without even bothering to find out if there's really been a crime. And in front of all those writers, too. Oh, boy.
I'm not going to let you do it.
What? Oh, now, come on, be reasonable. Valentine's put me on a few spots where I didn't look too bright. I need this for my morale. I'll tell you what. I'll make you a bet.
What kind of a bet?
Well, a hat for you if I lose and a box of cigars for me if I win.
All right. Okay, Lieutenant, you're on.
Okay. Ha-ha! Now we got work to do. Miss Brooks, I want you to meet Steve Barry. He writes all those hard-boiled detective novels about Dan Flint, Private Eye.
You mean you write those books about Dan Flint?
Young lady, one doesn't have to look like a thug to understand the psychology of a tough, two-fisted character.
And this is Cornelia Wollaston, who writes such wonderful, blood-curdling horror stories.
Yes, you should see some of the people I meet in my nightmares. Gruesome. When did the festivities begin, Lieutenant?
Well, Valentine is still probably wandering around Union Station, so let's get on with the introductions. Huh? This is Ben Forrester, Miss Brooks. He's of the deductive school. He's here to play corpse today.
I'll make the liveliest one you ever saw. Don't you think so, Miss Brooks?
In your profession, you should at least know what a corpse looks like.
This is Sigmund Greenmetz. He specializes in scientific crime. Why, he spends more time in our police lab than we do.
Thank you, Lieutenant. I admit the thoroughness, even though some of my colleagues don't.
Nothing like being thorough about mayhem.
And this is, finally, young Mr. Copeland, who believes that every crime has a psychological basis.
And that's the way it will always be, as long as crimes are committed by human beings.
I don't mind suspense, Lieutenant, but I happen to have a dinner party.
Yes, where is Mr. Valentine?
Well, he'll be along any minute now, Barry. Oh, now, look here, Greenmetz. You know what you have to do.
Yes, I understand it. I pull down the window blinds to darken the office like this. Then I turn on the light.
Right.
Then when Mr. Valentine begins to light the candles on his birthday cake, I flip the lights off.
And with a pathetic, stifled scream, I crumple to the floor.
Oh, dear. Murder can be so repetitious, even when you stage it.
Just 1 minute and one more thing, Greenmetz.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Foster.
Don't poison Valentine's cake with one of those exotic venoms you always fall back on in those incredibly dull stories of yours.
I may seem a little out of date to a successful best-selling writer like you, but at least I use careful research. I'm not a fraudulent writer.
Gentlemen, remember, this is supposed to be a party.
Yeah. Cut it out, Greenmetz.
I don't like people to laugh at my work. If you go through the annals of crime, you'll discover that poison has been used more often.
Quiet, everybody. I think I just heard Valentine come in the outside office.
I still think I'm going to win that hat.
Hey, Brooksy. You know that letter I got this morning?
Well, did you find Madge Damon?
Hey, Brooksy, what is this? Who are all these people?
Well, they're guests, darling. Your birthday guests. What? As a matter of fact, they're all well-known mystery writers.
Old boy. Well, never mind. Never mind, pal. You'll get to know them all later. But tell me something. What about the janitor and the scrub woman? Didn't you recognize Williams and Mrs. Ferris, huh?
Lieutenant, I gotta hand it to you. You had me coming and going.
No hard feelings, huh? Look here. Look, I provided a cake and some refreshments, so come on, let's celebrate.
Okay, I'm just in the mood.
Go on, George, light the cake.
Off with the lights, Greenmetz. Very well.
Oh, this is nice and cozy.
Oh, say, I don't even have a match.
Here, use my lighter.
That's the idea, Miss Williston. Hurry up, Valentine.
No, you don't. Get away from me.
Oh, what was that? What happened?
Sounded like Forrester.
What's going on here?
Hey, you, Green Mets, get those lights on.
Forrester! Well, what's the matter with him? Why is he lying there like that?
Don't stand there, Barry. Help him up.
Somebody better get a doctor.
Wait a minute. Don't touch him. Let me have a look at him. Oh. We'd better get the coroner.
What?
This man's dead. Lying on his face with a dagger in his chest.
Dead? What are you talking about?
Who wanted to kill
What are you
Forrester?
saying, Lieutenant?
Well, what's the matter, Valentine? Aren't you interested? This happened in your office.
Oh, I'm quivering like a leaf. I think the only thing that'll calm me down is a piece of cake.
What?
Tell your stooge to get up, Lieutenant. This whole setup is as crooked as a worm in an apple.
Oh, darling, I love it.
Oh, nuts.
I get a
The
little
best laid plans of mice and men.
Your little joke didn't work, Lieutenant.
He was too smart for
Look,
you.
Chadwick.
When I get taken for a ride in the morning, I try to smarten up come afternoon.
Well, don't be such a ham, Forrester. Get up.
He always did like holding the center of the stage.
Well, maybe I can shake him out of it. Hey, wait a minute.
Huh? You're not trying to put anything over on me.
I'm not kidding. There's no dagger in Forrester's chest.
Of course there isn't.
Just the same he's been killed.
What? Oh,
What are you
please,
talking
George,
about?
one practical joke is enough.
This is no joke, Brooksy. Right now, Mr. Forrester is very much dead. We'll return to tonight's adventure of George Valentine in just a moment. Meanwhile, let's all go back to school for a minute. Reading, writing, and arithmetic? No, sir. A lesson in motor oil from Mrs. Virgie F. Codner, who teaches school in Phoenix, Arizona. And here's her statement, quote, "Why, it's just plain logic that a clean engine will run better and longer than a dirty engine. And that's why I prefer RPM to any other motor oil. I know it's cleaning my car's motor while it's lubricating it," unquote. And folks, that's a lesson worth remembering. For RPM motor oil not only keeps your engine cleaner, it guards against internal rust, fights off corrosion and lacquer. It protects hot spots left bare and exposed to wear by ordinary motor oils. And is there plus and minus about RPM? Yes, the plus is longer mileage, longer engine life, and the minus is fewer repair bills. So, to give your car and your pocketbook a break, get an oil drain and refill with RPM motor oil. Get it at independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. You find yourself the victim of a very elaborate and phony birthday joke planned by, of all people, Lieutenant Riley. It might have been fun, except that the man who was supposed to play dead really died. And right in your office. And in front of 4 top-notch mystery writers. You know one of the 4 had to murder him. You might call it mayhem by experts. In fact, that's what we do call it.
Valentine, why do these things happen to me?
Well, I don't feel too good either. Like an accessory after the fact or something.
Now, wait a minute. Listen, both of you. Don't let your conscience bother you too much. Forrester's murder was carefully planned.
Yes,
If it didn't happen back there in my office, it would have happened somewhere else.
Well, at least we're pretty sure who did it.
Somehow I still can't believe it was Green Mets. He just doesn't seem to be the type.
Yeah, Angel, I second the motion. But the facts are sure stacked up against him.
I tell you could have knocked me over with a feather when the coroner said Forrester was poisoned. Jabbed with a hypodermic needle. And then to find the needle in Green Met's pocket.
Green Met said he didn't know how it got there. And with everybody milling around in the dark, anybody could have put it there.
Well, he admitted that Forrester had been needling him for months. Telling him all he's been doing for 20 years is rehashing Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, it's just a little too pat, Lieutenant. But I certainly don't have any other answer.
Well, I'm holding Green Metz on suspicion of murder. And I think he's going to turn out to be our man.
Could be, Lieutenant, could be. Hey, Brooksy, we never did get to celebrate my natal day. Suppose we spend it on a treasure hunt. See if you can find the light switch, Angel.
Okay. Well, the late Mr. Forrester's apartment has all the standard equipment, including copies of Esquire.
Hold it.
Huh?
I crack a light under the door to the other room.
You would have to be blind not to see it. Who could it be?
That's what we're going to find out. Yeah, somebody's there looking for something he's got to have. He's not missing a trick.
George, the light just went out.
That's when I go in. Stay where you are, Brooks.
Okay, but I don't have to like it.
Okay, Buster, I can't see you, but I know you're in there. Come on, make with the vocal cords. All right. All right, suit yourself. You're either going to have to jump out of that window or try to get past me. Making up your mind? Well, I don't think you're going to jump, friend, so just stay put while I find a switch and we'll...
No, it's not going to be the window, friend.
I feel like I was baking a cake and stuck my head too far into the oven.
Oh, George, what did I do?
Oh, what did you do? Oh, don't tell me you put this dent in my skull.
No, I hit him.
Huh?
Yeah. That gentleman lying face down over there by the couch.
Oh, you handled yourself right well, Angel.
Well, he hit you. There wasn't anything I could do except take my shoe off and hit him back. Golly, I hope I didn't hit him too hard.
Well, we'll just see. Let's turn it over.
Well, surprise.
Yeah, a big surprise. It's Barry. Steve Barry. Come on, Barry. You realize your story sounds as phony as a dime store engagement ring.
I know. It's the truth, Valentine.
I've heard of people doing things for publicity, but not anything like this.
Please, try to understand my position. There I was in your office, Valentine, at that party, the scene of the murder.
Uh-huh.
Well, now, what would my readers think if I, Dan Flynn's literary father, wasn't able to solve it?
Oh, I can just hear the whole nation going...
Just what were you looking for here in Forrester's apartment?
I don't know. Just like you, any little clue that might prove whether it was or wasn't Green Mets who did it.
Just any little old clue.
Yes. If I could find the murderer, the sales of my new book might run into millions.
You know, it's just possible somebody might think you killed Forrester, and we're here trying to destroy evidence.
Hey, what about that, Barry?
Me? Kill somebody? Me? Why, I can't even stand the sight of blood. It makes me faint. The stories my public expects from me, all that violence. Well, you just have no idea what a strain it is on me.
Well, Green Mets has his story and you have yours.
But I've told you I'm telling the truth and you've got to believe me.
Well, I'll be able to tell you better about that later. Now go home, Barry. Put a cold compress in your head. And you, Angel, will you join me?
Where now?
Believe it or not, the public library. To read some mysteries.
Oh, George, it's getting late. Can't expect to read all those mystery books tonight. What are you looking for, anyway?
Huh? What's all this?
I know the butler did it.
Oh, this might be what we're looking for. Yeah, Brooksy. Here are the books by Cornelia Williston and young Copeland. You know what I found in them?
Words. And more words.
Yeah. Also, one particular phrase that keeps bobbing up in both.
Let me guess. Don't touch anything till the police get here.
No, Brooksy, no. In the translucent twilight.
Would you mind repeating that?
In the translucent twilight.
Yeah, that's what I thought you said. I just wanted to be sure.
Now, why should a lush phrase like that keep popping up in the books both of them wrote?
So they steal from each other.
One more intriguing little fact. Cornelia Williston's most successful book, The Twisted Claw, was dedicated to B.G. See? Right here in the frontispiece. To B.G., a kindred spirit with undying love.
B.G.? Look at that brittle Miss Wilson. You'd never think she'd go in for baby toys.
A kindred spirit. And look at this book, the first one Forrester ever wrote.
It wasn't signed Ben Forrester like all the later ones. It was signed B.G. Forrester. B.G.
Hey, do you think...
Maybe it's more than a coincidence, but I'm sending a telegram to Sweetwater, Oklahoma.
Well, you know, darling, it's little streaks of logic like that that endear you to everybody.
The book jacket on the twisted claw says Miss Williston was born in Sweetwater. A telegram to the local paper will bring us a lot of interesting details about Cornelia.
And then?
And then, I may want to pick up my birthday party where it was so violently interrupted, with the same list of guests. Except, of course, the late Mr. Forrester.
Valentine, what's the reason for this clam break?
Yes, just what have you got on your mind?
Have you found something that will clear this man here?
I'm coming to that, Lieutenant.
Come right in, Miss Williston, Mr. Copeland.
What, another birthday party so soon?
I just got your message, Lieutenant. I came right over.
If you're all here to tell me how much I despise Forrester, you wouldn't be saying anything that's not true. He was obnoxious, arrogant. But I wouldn't go to the trouble of killing him.
Take it easy, Green Mutz.
Okay, Valentine, okay. What do you know that we should know?
You better get started, Brooksy, before the good lieutenant blows a gasket.
Oh, yeah. Goodbye, George, darling. I shall meet you in the translucent twilight.
Translucent twilight?
Oh, what's the matter, Miss Williston? Those words seem to have a special meaning for you.
There's nothing more beautiful than a translucent twilight, is there?
Say, what's going on here?
What is that?
Wouldn't you say that was a purple phrase, Mr. Copeland? In the translucent twilight.
I wouldn't know.
You should, if you read your own books. Or if at least you read the ones somebody else wrote for you.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, what is all this, huh?
George, do you want all these fine detailed notes you made in the library?
I don't think we'll need them, Brooksy. I believe Miss Williston will admit she wrote all of Copeland's books as well as her own.
Goodness, you can't mean what you're saying.
That can't be. The styles, they're too different.
That's a lie, Valentine, and you know it.
Ridiculous.
That one phrase keeps recurring often in the books you two have written.
Well, what about it? I told you all writers are crazy. Anyway, it could have been just a coincidence.
Lieutenant. Authors fall in love with certain phrases and use them over and over again without even realizing it. They become just as much a part of them, just as revealing as their fingerprints.
Come to think of it, you're right, Valentine, you're right. I keep finding my Dan Flynn saying over and over again, I'm going to slam you senseless, sweetheart.
That's absolutely true, yeah. I find myself doing the same thing.
But, Mr. Valentine, I fail to
Miss
see
Williston, I received a little information from Sweetwater, Oklahoma.
Is that supposed to terrify me?
You wrote Copeland's books, and for a very good reason. He happens to be your son.
What? What's that for?
Is it pride that forced you to make a successful writer for your son, Cornelia?
Son? But it's Miss Williston. Miss!
Take it easy, Dad.
No, there was a Mr. Williston at one time. Okay, why don't you admit it, Cornelia? You're a widow. It's all here in this telegram.
All right. What if I am?
You can stop it now, Valentine. Yes, Cornelia is my mother. She wanted to help me in my career. That's nobody else's business.
Okay. So this is going to make headlines in the Saturday Review of Literature. Now, what about it?
Go on, please, Mr. Valentine.
Mrs. Williston, you had a very good reason to kill Forrester, didn't you?
Why, I hardly knew him, except professionally. He was just another writer.
Oh, I see. And is that why you dedicated the Twisted Claw to B.G., and I quote, with undying love?
Forrester's middle initial was G. G for Gerald.
And he was the kind of man who had other women call him B.G., and with the same undying love.
You're right about that, Valentine. Forrester was always bragging about his success with the fair sex. The truth is, I once told him to his very face that he was a cad.
Keep going, Valentine. Let's get to the end of this.
Don't you see, Lieutenant? When Forrester decided he was through with Cornelia, he held a whip hand. The threat to expose the hoax of young Ted Copeland, the promising new writer.
I should never have let you do it, Mother.
So, Cornelia, you killed Forrester, and in a way that would place all the suspicion on Green Mutz. Now, didn't you?
Yes. That's exactly the way it happened.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. Believe me, Mrs. Williston, I'm very sorry.
Of course you know you're lying, Cornelia.
What's this?
And I have an idea that I won't be the one to prove that.
Wait a minute. Are you trying to say she didn't kill Forrester? She just said so herself.
Thank you for being a practical man, Lieutenant.
No, this is one time I'm going to stand on my own 2 feet, Mother.
Ted, keep quiet.
I killed Forrester, just as Valentine described it. But he had it coming to him for such a long, long time.
What are you doing, Ted? You have your whole life
It's
before
no
you.
use, Cornelia. I'm sorry I had to do it the way I did, but I had a feeling he'd tell the truth if he saw the guilt being placed on you.
I knew how much you loved him, Mother. I saw how he threw you over. All I could do was stand by.
Oh, Ted.
The scandal about the books, it was going to ruin not only me, but you. That's why I killed him.
So you see, Brooksy, Green Metz would never in a million years think of poisoning anybody when he knows he's an authority in the field.
And you figured it had to be either Cornelia or Ted. But what made you decide it was the son?
Why, Angel, don't you remember? When I was lighting the birthday cake, Cornelia handed me the lighter. She was standing right next to me, yards away from Forrester.
Well, you can keep your genius badge, mister.
Easy, Brooksy, easy. What are you trying to do, trip over yourself?
Oh, no, it's just this darned heel that isn't there. Incidentally, my fine friend, I'm putting the cost of a new pair of shoes on the office expense account.
Oh, shakedown, eh?
No, girlish superstitions. Never knock anybody unconscious twice with the same shoes.
Lots of times in everyday motoring when you need extra go-ahead for your car, but fast. And the way to get that speedy pickup is to get Chevron Supreme gasoline, the gasoline that puts command performance in your car. Thanks to special blending agents, this high-octane fuel gives your car command performance under every road condition. It commands fast starts, commands smooth acceleration, commands the extra power that makes your car great on hills. And no matter where you drive in the West, with Chevron Supreme, you can be sure of command performance. For premium quality, Chevron Supreme is climate-tailored to each different altitude and temperature zone from Canada to Mexico in all the western states. For command performance in your car, get Chevron Supreme tomorrow. Get it at standard stations and independent Chevron gas stations where they say and mean, we take better care of your car. Next week at this time, we pick up George Valentine on an out-of-town assignment, which begins on a train that's just pulling into Sharondale.
Ain't you kind of cold out here on the platform, Jack?
What? Oh, no, I'm getting off as soon as the train stops.
You're getting off here, Jack. When me car things in your face with this broken bottle, I don't like the sight of blood.
Wait a minute, it's not going to be my blood. Bust
Get off, Desert, get off! Hey! Happy landing, Jack! Stay out of Sharondale!
Tonight's adventure of George Valentine has been brought to you by Standard of California on behalf of independent Chevron gas stations and standard stations throughout the West. Let George Do It stars Robert Bailey as George, with Francis Robinson as Brooksy. Wally Mayer appears as Lieutenant Riley. Tonight's story was written by David Victor and Herbert Little, Jr. and directed by Don Clark. Also heard in the cast were Jeanette Nolan as Cornelia, Roland Morris as Copeland, Junius Matthews as Barry, Fred Howard as Forrester, Louis Van Ruten as Green Metz, and Ruth Parrott as the Scrub Woman. The music is composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Mutual actually had a radio series called Murder by Experts. This episode of Let George Do It aired in January, and that series started in June. I don't believe they're connected at all in any way, because Murder by Experts was a variety mystery series known for just taking from the very best writers. It may suggest that the connection is that the Mutual Network was in charge of naming all the shows. This is another great episode, and another time where I really have reached the conclusion that Claire Brooks is really the best sidekick of any sort on these radio detective shows. Not only on the ones that we listen to here, but on some of the other ones that I listen to as little extras during the week. And once again, just the writing of Let George Do It is superb, and I just love this plot. And it really is only possible because of the type of relationship that George and Lieutenant Riley have developed, thanks to the fine acting of Wally Mayer as Lieutenant Riley. All right, well, before the show, I told you that I kind of left a little bit off. I got a little excited and realized we were going along. We'll go ahead and just get said what we need to be said about the rest of the Tuesday shows for Season 2. Well, after Father Brown, and after your choice of either Nero Wolfe or Candy Matson, whichever our listeners choose, and if we choose Candy Matson because there are less episodes of that than there are Nero Wolfe, we'll throw in one other series in between Candy Matson and the shows we're about to list, so we end up right about on schedule. But after that, we're going to do The Adventures of Christopher London. Not a widely known or widely circulating show. There's only 3 episodes, so it's one of those short series I like to do. And this one may be one of the best series out there where there are only a few episodes in existence. I just finished listening to the last of the 3, and I was just like, wow, what a good series. The biggest mystery about it may be why it didn't make it further. And then after we do Christopher London, so 3 weeks of Christopher London, it'll be a series that many of you have requested, Rogues Gallery. And if I don't miscalculate, that should take us all the way through the 2010-2011 season, maybe a little bit beyond. But those are the rest of the shows that are coming up. Now on to the changes to the app. Not the app, but the extra site. We started the extra site in regards to folks who basically said, I love the sound of all the extras you're talking about, but here's the thing, I don't have an iPhone or an iPod Touch, so I can't use it. So I never started one of these before. I didn't know, what would be involved, but I want to continue to do it. I did not want to do a lifetime membership without knowing what I was getting in for. So I basically set it up with 3, 6, and 12-month subscriptions. And I would change the password at the start of each quarter just to make sure that only those who are paid up remained on. Well, I've run it a while, and I found there's really no trouble in running the extra site. It runs really smoothly. My only problem runs into the fact of when I change the password. That's the most aggravation. I've only changed it once, and I'll be honest, I don't want to change it again. And so what we're going to go ahead and do is those of you who have gotten a year's membership, you've given a tip of $7 or more, you are set for as long as we're offering the extra. And anybody else who wants to go ahead and sign up for it, it's only $7, and and you have access to it as long as we continue to do it. We had 2 people who have given $4, and if they give $3, then they're set up for an indefinite membership. And we're not going to change that at all. So that's the way it's going to be from here forward. Now that we have an idea of how it's going to work, there's no expirations, no time limits. You give $7 and you're set, and that gives you access to the extra shows we do for Great Detectives as well as for Old Time Dragnet. One of the ladies who had a problem with this, Val, actually emailed in, and once we got her fixed on the site, she added some comments that she said, I cleaned up the craft room and listened to 6 episodes on the premium list. Love the podcast, love the extras. Adam Graham rocks. Your 200th episode extra was very, very good. I like the hour-long shows even more. Well, thanks, Val, and I know we have several hour specials, episodes of Lux Radio Theater and Mercury Theater on the air, and we have some half hours. I will give some thought whether we might do double half-hour specials at some point. That's an interesting idea, and we'd be able to mix a couple different ones in when we do future extras where our main special idea is only half an hour. But thanks for the comment, Val. We also have one comment off Podcast Alley. I continue to enjoy the shows, except for Sherlock Holmes, though that's just my taste and your relevant commentary. Well, thanks. And, yeah, tastes definitely do vary. But I decided it would be in good taste to read that comment today. Before we get started with today's show, I do want to let you know about our sponsors. It can be a challenge to grow your business. It seems there are a never-ending list of activities that eat into limited time. That's why I'm so glad to tell you about GoToMeeting. Because GoToMeeting allows you to do more with the time you have. Whether it saves you a plane trip to Japan or a car trip across town, GoToMeeting saves you time on travel. It can also give you greater flexibility in your scheduling. With GoToMeeting, you can have a meeting with clients in Dayton and then immediately afterwards be able to connect with vendors in New Delhi through the convenience of GoToMeeting web conferencing. Listeners to the great detectives of old-time radio can try GoToMeeting free for 45 days. For this special offer, visit GoToMeeting.com/podcast. That's GoToMeeting.com/podcast to start your free trial. Now we're going to get into today's episode of Sherlock Holmes, The Strange Case of the Demon Barber.
Petri Wine brings you Basil Rathbone and Nigel Bruce in the new adventures of Sherlock Holmes. The Petri family, the family that took time to bring you good wine, invite you to listen to Dr. Watson tell us another exciting adventure he shared with his old friend, that master detective, Sherlock Holmes. And if you will, I hope you listen to me for a second, because I want to tell you about a wine that can make waiting for dinner a pleasure. The wine is Petri California Sherry. Any evening, well, let's say tomorrow evening, right before dinner, pour yourself a glass of Petri Sherry. Just look at it. It's clear as crystal and a wonderful deep amber color. One sure sign of a good sherry. And if you need further proof of just how good Petri Sherry really is, taste it. What wine? That Petri Sherry has a flavor that you know comes right from the heart of the grape. And if you like your sherry dry rather than sweet, you'll really like Petri Pale Dry Sherry. There's no doubt about it. Petri Sherry is one of the most delicious before-dinner wines in this swell country of ours. Oh, and say, when you serve Petri Sherry, serve it proudly, because those letters, P-E-T-R-I, on the bottle, spell the proudest name in the history of American wine. And now I'm sure our good friend Dr. Watson's waiting for us. Let's go enjoy.
There you are, Mr. Bartell.
Good evening, Doctor. All alone tonight, huh?
Yes, my boy, if you can call a man alone when he's got his pipe, his books, and a glass of good port at his elbow. Take your coat off for fuller enjoyment.
Thanks, Doctor.
Help yourself to the port. There's some rather special tobacco in the jar over there.
Fine. And now, Doctor, are you ready to tell us tonight's new Sherlock Holmes adventure?
I am, Mr. Bartell, and I think you'll find it a most unusual story. It began on a winter's night in 1896. Holmes and I had gone to a theatre in the East End of London to see a performance of a famous old English melodrama called Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street.
That's a good bloodthirsty title, Doctor. The Demon Barber. He sounds as though he specialized in close shaves.
Good gracious me, Mr. Bartell, that's almost unforgivable. He was a murderer of voracious appetite who placed his victims in a specially constructed barber's chair, cut their throats, and then pressed the lever that would swing the chair over and decamp the unfortunate victim into a horrible cellar beneath his shop.
Glad this is only a stage play you're talking about, Doctor.
As my story begins, we were seated in a private box watching one of the closing scenes. Holmes was leaning forward in his chair, following the action on the stage with an obvious delight, while I sat beside him equally engrossed. An actor by the name of Mark Humphreys was playing the part of Sweeney Todd, and no one could deny that he was playing it up to
Where are you going, Tobias? To the nearest magistrate, Sweeney Todd, to denounce you as a fiendish, cruel, cold-blooded murderer. You have pronounced your doom. Into the chair with you, and over and down into the depths below. Ha, 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 there. Say, whence comes this apparition? 'Tis the ghost of another customer of mine. The yawning grave yields up his ghastly inmates to prove me guilt. Blood will have blood. See, he is there. He comes to accuse me of his murder. Oh, save me! 'Twas not I that slew you. Let me leave, or it will kill me. Let me leave! Ha ha ha
Oh, upon my soul, Holmes, that fellow Mark Humphreys is the most florid actor that I've ever seen on a stage.
I find him enchanting, Watson. It seems to me he's really caught the flavor of this murderous monster piece. After all, a restrained performance of the Barber Sweeney Todd would be unthinkable.
Yes, I suppose it would. But I must say his makeup seems rather overdone. No barber would wear such an enormous beard. It would be most impractical. Probably get in the customers' faces. By the way, I noticed from the program that Mark Humphreys, as well as being the principal actor, is also the owner of the company.
Yes, the current trend towards the actor-manager is a very healthy sign, I think. Come in.
Excuse me, but is one of you gentlemen Mr. Sherlock Holmes?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I was asked to give you this note.
Thank you.
Now, who on earth knows that you're at the theatre, Holmes?
We'll soon find out. This note is from Mark Humphreys, our actor-manager.
What's it say?
Dear Mr. Holmes, I recognize you in your box. Please come to my dressing room after the performance. My sanity, and even the safety of London, perhaps, depends on your compliance.
Good Lord, my sanity and the safety of London. I wonder what on earth he means.
That, my dear fellow, we can only discover by going backstage to meet him. As it is, the curtain's going up in the last scene I see. For a little longer, we must possess our souls in patience.
Mr. Sherlock Holmes?
Yes, sir?
Oh, my name is Lindsay. Derek Lindsay. I'm the business manager. Mr. Humphreys asked me to meet you at the stage door and take you to his dressing room.
Thank you very much. This is my colleague, Dr. Watson.
How do you do?
Oh, how are you, Doctor? Will you follow me, please?
Excuse me asking, Mr. Lindsay, but surely you must be related to that distinguished actor of some years back, Lytton Lindsay.
He was my father, Mr. Holmes.
Ah, indeed. The resemblance is extraordinary.
With such a heritage, Mr. Lindsay, you must love the theatre.
It'll probably sound like heresy, but I hate it. However, it's the only thing I was trained for, and there's good money to be made in it, sometimes. And money's a thing I both like and want. Oh, Mr. Holmes, I do hope you'll be able to help Mark Humphreys. He certainly needs it.
Oh, really? What seems to be his trouble?
Oh, he'll have to tell you that for himself. But his wife and I think... There's Mrs. Humphreys now. Maria! Maria, this is Mr. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. Mrs. Mark Humphreys.
How do you do?
Oh, Mr. Holmes, I'm so grateful that you're going to see Mark. He's in such a dreadful state. There have been times lately when Mr. Lindsay and I have been afraid he's going out of his mind, haven't we, Derek?
Indeed we have. We're both dreadfully worried about him.
In that case, I hope I can be of service. Which is his dressing room?
Number 1, next door to mine. Derek, I think it'll be better if Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson go in alone. I'm sure Mark will speak more freely if we're not in the room.
I think perhaps that is a good idea, Mrs. Humphreys. We'll see you later on. Come on, fellow.
That's all.
Come in. Sherlock Holmes. Thank heaven you're here. Close the door.
Mr. Humphreys, this is Dr. Watson.
Watson, eh? Yes, I know of you, too.
How do you do, sir?
Sit down, won't you, gentlemen? You're wondering why I asked you to come back and see me, of course.
Naturally, sir.
Well, I won't beat about the bush and waste your time. I come straight to the point. I'm going mad.
Oh, come on.
I know. It sounds
come.
fantastic, but it's true. I've often heard of actors beginning to live their parts off the stage. They play on it. Well, it's happening to me. I'm turning into another Sweeney Todd. The character I'm portraying on the stage.
Are you suggesting, sir, that you're a potential murderer?
Yes, I am.
What reason do you have for holding that belief?
Reason? Listen to this. 3 times in the past week, I've wakened in the morning to find my boots covered with mud and my razor stained with blood.
You've had no recollection of any untoward events during the night?
None.
Have you ever been addicted to the unfortunate habit of sleepwalking, sir?
Not to my knowledge, Doctor. And if I had been, surely my wife would have told me about it.
Your wife? Where do you live, Mr. Humphreys?
We have a flat here above the theater.
Above the theater, eh? And Mr. Humphreys, you say that on 3 separate occasions on wakening in the morning, you have found a blood-stained razor and mud-covered boots. Can you show us this proof?
No, I can't. I was always so frightened that my wife would see that I cleaned them before she had the opportunity of finding them.
It is, sir. They would have been very valuable clues in a case like this.
I couldn't risk my wife seeing evidence like that, Doctor. She'd know the truth. But at night times, while she's asleep, some devilish, unconscious urge has overcome me. An urge that causes me to prowl the streets of London, razor in hand, looking for a victim. Mr. Holmes, you've got to help me. I'm certain that without knowing it, I've been committing murder, and if you don't help me, I'll go on and on.
Mr. Humphreys, please. I'll undertake the case. It's a very unique assignment. In effect, I'm being engaged by a possible murderer to prove him guilty.
Well, Mr. Holmes, I've been through all the records we have here at Scotland Yard.
What have you found, Inspector Gregson?
In the last 2 months, we haven't had one case of an unsolved killing with a razor.
Any mysterious disappearances, Inspector?
Bless your heart, Doctor. There's never a day that passes without one or two of them. Here's a list of them, Mr. Holmes, if it's any use to you.
Thanks. Come on, Watson. In the morning, we can go back to the theater and set our friend's mind at rest. I'm much obliged to you, Gregson.
Glad to be of service, Mr. Holmes.
We examined the homicide records at Scotland Yard after leaving you last night, Mr. Humphreys. There have been no unsolved razor murders in London during the past fortnight.
And therefore, I think you may rest easy on that score, sir.
But it proves nothing. Remember that in the play, Sweeney Todd's victims are never found either.
Yes, thanks to his singularly horrible ingenuity in disposing of them. But this is real life, Mr. Humphreys.
Then how do you account for the bloodied razors and the muddied boots?
Well, now, are you sure that they aren't just in your imagination, sir? You admit that your wife's never seen them? The whole thing could be, or shall we say, an overdose of Sweeney Todd?
Well, I admit that I'm suffering from a surfeit of that.
And why not drop the play from your repertoire?
Our manager, Derek Lindsay, won't let me. He's our best moneymaker. He's always got a keen eye to business. Mr. Holmes, I can see that you still don't believe my story. So I've saved some evidence for you, evidence that I found this morning. Look at these. Now what do you say? Do you still think it's my imagination?
Got a blood-stained razor and boots covered with mud.
Splendid. At last, some real clues to work on.
How can you be so calm, Holmes? It happened again last night. Do you realize that I'm a murderer? I'm a menace to society? For heaven's sake, lock me up before I do some more damage.
No, sir. Don't get so excited.
Mr. Humphreys, I should like to take these objects back to Baker Street where I can perform some chemical tests. You have no objections, I hope?
Objections? Good heavens, no.
Excellent. You've told no one of this fresh discovery of yours?
No one. Not even Derek Lindsay.
Derek Lindsay, that's your manager, isn't it?
Yes. The best friend I ever had. Except for his father before him. It was Derek who helped me back on my feet 2 years ago, when I put on that disastrous production of Macbeth. Don't know where I'd be today if it went for him.
You lost a great deal of money on that production, sir.
Nearly every penny I had.
Indeed. By the way, where is your wife, Mr. Humphreys?
She's in her dressing room next door. We have a matinee today, you know.
I'd like a word with her. What's an old chap? Wait here for me, will you? I won't be a moment.
Right you are, Holmes.
Who is it?
Sherlock Holmes.
You want to talk to me, Mr. Holmes?
For a moment. May I come in, Mrs. Humphreys?
Well, couldn't we talk on the stage? It's empty.
I should prefer to come into your dressing room, if you don't mind. What I have to say is confidential.
Very well, then. Come in. Mr. Holmes, may I introduce Signor Vanelli, our musical director?
How do you do, sir?
It is a great honor to meet the so great Signor Holmes. I have so admired you. Oh, often I have envied you. Many times I say to myself, Snipsy...
Signor Vanelli, if you don't mind, I wish to speak to Mrs. Humphreys alone.
Oh, I quite understand. Excuse me, Signor. Adios, Cara Maria.
Mr. Holmes, I'm really awfully glad of this opportunity to talk to you. Tell me truthfully, please, what's your opinion of my husband?
I haven't formed a definite opinion yet. Except that it's possible that he's the victim of a fraud. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Of course not, Mr. Holmes.
Has your husband ever shown evidence of being a sleepwalker?
A sleepwalker? Oh, no, never.
I see. Are you a light sleeper?
Yes, I am. Exceptionally so. Why?
Oh, I was just curious.
You're being very mysterious, Mr. Holmes. Can't you tell even me what's going on?
I promised your husband the answer to that question before tonight's performance. I'm afraid I can't tell you any more until then.
Oh. And now may I ask a question?
Oh, certainly. No, I won't promise to answer it.
You said just now that my husband might be the victim of a fraud. What did you mean?
Again, I'm afraid that you must wait for the specific answer to that question. However, there's another fraud being practiced on him that I can speak of now.
What fraud?
The fraud that you are indulging in, Mrs. Humphreys.
What do you mean?
Of course, this particular fraud is none of my business, but when I almost force my way into your dressing room and find your musical director, a quantity of rice powder on one shoulder and suggestions of rouge on his cheek, it doesn't take a great deal of intelligence to deduce that your husband is being deceived.
Get out of here at once.
That's exactly what I propose doing. Good day to you, madam. No doubt I shall see you later on.
Well, Holmes, what does the microscope tell you about the mud on the boots and the blood stains on the razor?
On a blank on the mud, old chap. It's an extremely common type that is found in most parts of London.
And the blood?
I'm examining that now.
This is as strange a case as ever I remember, Holmes. Here you are trying to prove a man innocent when he insists that he's guilty.
By George, Watson. Here's the answer.
What?
This blood is definitely not human blood. It's probably canine. Now, a Sweeney Todd madness would hardly drive its victim to kill dogs. Therefore, it's obvious that Mark Humphreys is the victim of a devilish plot.
And he's not a murderer.
No, come on, old fellow. Let's go to the theater at once and give him the good news.
What of the answer? 3/4 of an hour before the curtain time.
Oh, he must be in his dressing room. I'll knock again. Come on, Watson, let's go in.
Holmes, look. Look, he's slumped over his dressing table.
I hope we're not too late. Here, give me a hand with him.
You are too late. His throat's been cut.
Poor devil. I promised him a solution to his troubles before the night was over. Little did I think that the solution would be death.
We'll hear the rest of Dr. Watson's story in just a second, so I'm going to ask you if you're one of those people who just eats to live, or whether you really enjoy good food. If you love good eating, you've just got to know about Petri wine. Petri wine makes good food taste wonderful. For instance, if you're having steak or a roast or any meat or meat dish, you'll love it served with Petri California Burgundy. Petri Burgundy is the last word in delicious red wine. Now, with chicken or fish, you can't beat the delicate Petri California Sauterne, a really extraordinary white wine. Just to make sure you don't miss either Petri wine, don't buy one, buy two. Buy both Petri Burgundy and Petri Sauterne. They're both swell because they're both Petri. Well, Dr. Watson, what happened next?
Well, Phil, I think I'll pick up the story exactly where I left off. Holmes and I were standing in Mark Humphrey's dressing room, looking with horror at the flashed throat of the actor manager. There was a bitter, self-accusing note in Holmes's voice.
I promised him a solution to his troubles before tonight was over. Little did I think that solution would be death.
This worry over his supposed madness caused him to commit suicide.
Suicide? Rubbish, old fellow. It's murder.
Look at the razor clutched in his hand.
Undoubtedly placed there by the murderer before rigor mortis had a chance to set in. In any case, scrutinize the wound. Does that look as if it had been done by the hand of a suicide?
Well, I don't see why not.
Look closer, old chap. The depth of the wound is even, whereas a suicide cut always wavers towards the end. No, this is murder, Watson, and I think I know who did it. But I have little evidence. I must lay a trap.
What kind of a trap, Holmes?
I haven't time to tell you now, old fellow. Every moment counts. Off with you to Scotland Yard and get Inspector Gregson. Bring him back here as fast as you can.
Right you are.
And Watson.
Yes?
Tell absolutely no one except Gregson of Mark Humphrey's death. Say that he's still alive and well and that his problems are solved.
It's the performance of the play.
Don't you worry about that, old chap. Off with you to Scotland Yard.
I'm sorry it took so long to find me, Dr. Watson. I was out on another case.
No, that's all right, Inspector. But the performance, if there is one, must be nearly over by now.
Here's the stage door, sir.
Yes, here we are.
Here, you can't go on the stage.
Who says I can't? I'm Inspector Gregson of Scotland Yard.
Oh, sorry.
Performance is going on. I wonder who the devil's playing Sweeney Todd. Come along. Let's just stand here in the wind.
Quietly. This is only the wind whistling through this cellar.
But this is impossible. There's Mark Humphreys on the stage. I saw him with his throat cut.
I don't believe in ghosts, Doctor.
Great heavens, it's Holmes.
Something like that. Who's this? It's you, Mrs. Summers. Somebody seems to cut your throat. What a pity. No more veal pies. Don't really try to cut your throat, dearie, and you'll cut their throats, too. He'll revenge you while you burn down there in hell, dearie. He'll revenge you.
Here he comes now, Gregson.
Amazing disguise. I never have recognized him.
You're both here.
Holmes, and what are you up to?
Surely that's apparent. I disguised myself as the dead man, hoping to force the murderer's hand.
You're running a terrible risk, Mr. Holmes.
Part of my profession, Gregson. Here comes Signor Vanelli, the musical director.
My dear fellow, I had to leave the orchestra pit to come and congratulate you. Never have you given a finer performance. Bravissimo, bravissimo.
Thank you.
But it is true. You hardly seem the same person. Your performance is incomparable. Keep it up, Mark. Keep it up.
I think he spotted you, Holmes.
Yes, and I didn't like his look as he said that.
Well, whoever it is, they've got to show their hand soon. The curtain's going up in the last scene. Keep your eyes open and suspect everyone. Look, my lord, Judge. He's by your side. Do not consider your ermine robe is stained with blood.
Really, Todd, what dark deed presses on your conscience?
Was a dark, foul deed, but heed not what you hear, Lord Judge, nor what you see. Still the figure sits there. I fear it come to this. It is useless to deny my guilt. The very dead rise from their settlements to prove Sweeney Todd a murderer.
By George, what an actor he'd have made, Doctor.
Yes, what an actor he is, Gregson. I'll be hanged if I know how he remembers the lines, though, even if he has seen the play half a dozen times. Here he comes now. Bravo, Holmes. You did splendidly.
But it didn't work, Watson. It didn't work, confound it. Murderer still hasn't tipped his hand. Have I underestimated him?
Looks as if you have, sir. And if you don't mind my saying so, I think you'd have been a lot wiser to let me handle the case as soon as you found his body, instead of going in for all this dressing up stuff.
Oh, but of course. Now I see it. Only one person could have killed Mark Humphreys.
Who, Holmes?
Do as I say, and I'll show you. I'm going to Humphreys' dressing room now, alone. Give me a few moments' start, and then follow me. Out of sight, but within earshot.
Dr. Watson, why does Mr. Holmes always have to be so blooming mysterious? Why can't he just say who the murderer is and take us to him?
Well, I've been with Mr. Holmes on a great many cases, Gregson, and yet I can't answer that question. Come along. He's got a big enough start now. Let's follow him.
I'm very fond of Mr. Holmes, you know, Doctor, and yet there are times when I get so angry with him. He shouldn't risk his life like that.
You know Mr. Holmes. He'll never change.
Well, if he don't, one of these days he's going to wake up and find himself dead. Shh.
That's the door.
Someone inside with him.
You devil, Humphreys! How many times do I have to kill you?
Great Scott, it's Derek Lindsay, the business manager. Come along, Gregson.
No, Lindsay! You succeeded in killing Humphreys, but you won't kill me. Grab his arm. Look out for that razor.
Here, you.
Let go of me!
No, you don't.
Very neat, Gregson.
Are you all right, Holmes?
Perfectly, thanks, old chap, though I'm a little tired. Gregson, my dear fellow, will you take over from here? I think I've had enough melodrama for one day. A pleasant, Watson, to be back at Baker Street again. A crackling fire, my dressing gown, and your company combined to make a soothing ending to a somewhat violent day.
Yes, it's been a most unusual case, Holmes. I still don't entirely understand it. The original plot, of course, was to try and drive Mark Humphreys mad by making him think that he was a murderer. That accounted for the boots and the blood-stained razor.
Precisely, my dear fellow. And the killer, having conditioned his victim by this trickery, then murdered him, trying to make it appear a suicide. Now, who had a motive?
3 people, Mrs. Humphreys, her lover, Signor Vanelli, and Derek Lindsay. I must say that I suspected the wife.
Well, so did I for a while, and yet it was illogical. She knew, and we may therefore presume that her lover knew, that I was suspicious of her.
And she must have known that you promised her husband a solution to his troubles before the night was out. It seems highly improbable that she or Signor Vanelli would have faked his suicide at that point.
Quite right, my dear fellow. So I investigated Derek Lindsay's affairs, and I found that what Humphreys had referred to as the kindly act of a friend in helping him back onto his feet was in reality the mortgaging of his entire theatrical effects. Lindsay stood to inherit the theater on Humphreys' death. Therefore, I was convinced that he was the killer.
And then, after he'd murdered him, he saw what he thought to be Mark Humphreys on the stage.
Ah, that's where I was slow and stupid, old chap. I couldn't imagine what motive gave the cold, clear nerve to suppress all reactions when he saw his supposed victim revived on the stage. Only at that moment did I realize.
And what was the motive that made him hold his hand?
The characteristic that ruled his life, Watson. Avarice. A morbid love of money. You see, if he'd attacked me during the performance, he'd have had to refund the money to the audience. His greed conquered all other passions. It made him wait until the performance was finished before he attempted my life.
You know, Holmes, now that the case is solved, I'll tell you something in confidence.
Please do, old fellow. What is it?
At the end of the play tonight, I was afraid that you'd made a mistake, that you'd slipped up on the case. Gregson thought so, too.
And I, Watson, will tell you something in confidence.
Oh, what is it?
There were 3 of us that felt the same way.
Well, now you're being modest, no?
I assure you I'm not, my dear chap. In fact, in the future, if it should strike you that I'm, getting a little overconfident of my powers, or perhaps giving less pains to a case than it deserves, kindly whisper Sweeney Todd in my ear, will you? I shall be infinitely obliged to you.
Doctor, that was a swell story. And a pretty narrow escape for Holmes.
Yeah. He said he almost solved the case too late. Fortunately, it ended well.
Mm-hmm. The thing that sticks in my mind is the fact that this was one of the very rare occasions when Holmes almost made a serious mistake.
Well, we all make mistakes at times, don't we? I said we all make mistakes at times.
I suppose so.
You mean to stand there and tell me that you never make a mistake?
Well, not when it comes to choosing a wine, I don't, because I always choose Petri.
Bartell, you trap me again.
Could be. But honestly, Doctor, when you choose a Petri wine, you know it's a good wine. Because good wine is the only kind of wine the Petri family makes. And it's easy to understand why when you realize that ever since they started the Petri business way back in the 1800s, the Petri family has handed on down from father to son, the highly developed fine art of winemaking. Yes, the Petri family's been making wine for generations. That's why, no matter what type wine you prefer, for any occasion, you can't go wrong with a Petri wine because Petri took time to bring you good wine. Well, Dr. Watson, do you care to give us a clue about next week's Sherlock Holmes adventure?
Let me see. Next week, Mr. Bartell, next week now. Yes, I'm going to tell you a colorful story that took place in a Parisian circus in 1890. It concerns a very exalted personage, a lady bareback rider, and a strange death that struck without warning.
Oh, boy, I can't miss that one, Doctor.
Good. Well, now, before you go, I want to say something to all our friends. I want you just to think for a minute. Think of how terrible it is to see helpless little children stricken by infantile paralysis. And then realize that infantile paralysis can be beaten. It can be beaten in very many cases. And your money, your dimes, can do it. Join the March of Dimes. Send your dimes to your local March of Dimes headquarters. Let's help little children walk. Let's help them live.
Tonight's Sherlock Holmes adventure was written by Dennis Green and Anthony Boucher and was suggested by an incident in this Arthur Conan Doyle story, The Yellow Face. Music is by Dean Fossler. Mr. Rathbone appears through the courtesy of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and Mr. Bruce through the courtesy of Universal Pictures, where they are now starring in the Sherlock Holmes series. The Petri Wine Company of San Francisco, California, invites you to tune in again next week, same time, same station. Sherlock Holmes comes to you from our Hollywood studio. This is Harry Bartell saying good night for the Petri family. For a solid hour of exciting mystery dramas, listen every Monday on most of these same stations at 8 o'clock to Michael Shayne, followed immediately by Sherlock Holmes. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. This episode is interesting for a number of reasons. First of all, in regards to Sweeney Todd, there are some people who claim that he was a real person, but the fact of the matter is that the character of Sweeney Todd was an invention of a penny magazine in the Victorian area called The String of Pearls. And it's thought by some scholars that he's an early urban legend. It's also interesting because the story has gained a lot of notoriety in the United States. It opened on Broadway in 1979, and it's had revivals, and also a 2007 movie with Johnny Depp and a 1998 film with Ben Kingsley. At the time, I think the exact details of the story were simply too lurid to be discussed. And so it's interesting to see how they dealt with this subject matter, which, when it was put into a Johnny Depp film, became an R-rated film, and did it in kind of a PG way. So it's interesting to see how they created around the expectations of the times. And once again, you see Basil Rathbone using his Holmes role to find some way to branch out into other theatrical endeavors. All right, now to listener comments. This comment comes from David in Britain, who says, "Keep up the Sterling podcast. Love to listen and to get to know these characters." Tom comments on Facebook, "I can't live without my daily dose of old-time detectives and the Superman show. I had an issue with Adam's accent at first, but now I've learned to love it. Keep up the good work." Tom in D.C. by way of Urbandale. I believe that's over in Southern Illinois. Well, thanks, Tom. Appreciate the comment. Also got a couple quick ones off of Podcast Alley. A simple "love your show," and "I love the podcast. Great job, Adam." Well, thanks so much for all your comments and support. I want to thank everybody for the answers I've gotten over the past week regarding who did the voice of Fatty in that episode of Box 13 a couple weeks ago. We'll share with you on Monday the answers we've got, and pretty solid overall theory. But before we get started, I want to let you know about our sponsor. The GoToMeeting conferencing service that's offered by our sponsors is designed for bottom-line folks who want to make the most of their time, don't want to compromise the security of their business, and want an affordable service. So what's the bottom line on GoToMeeting? Is it safe? Yeah, it's got the highest standard of security right down to the user interface. Is it affordable? Yes, you get unlimited meetings for $49 a month, and that includes free voice, IP, and phone conferencing. Will it save you time? Judge for yourself. Listeners to this program can get a 45-day free trial of GoToMeeting. For the special offer, visit gotomeeting.com/podcast. That's gotomeeting.com/podcast. And now it's time for an episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, that's not a rehearsal. It's the Earl Chadwick matter. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as Johnny Dollar.
The Ambassador Travel Agency calling back, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, yeah.
Your reservation for Bermuda's just been confirmed. Pan American, flight number 134. You'll leave LaGuardia at 10:30 a.m., arrive Kindley Field, Bermuda, 2:30 p.m.
Got it?
We'll send the tickets right over. It's been a pleasure to serve you, sir, and I hope you have an enjoyable stay in Bermuda. Is it a vacation?
Well, hardly. I'm going down there to look up a dead man.
Edmund O'Brien in another transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Tri-State Life Insurance Company. Attention, Leland Scarf, Chief Adjuster. The following is an accounting of my expenditures during investigation of the Earl Chadwick matter. Expense account item 1, $1.80, cab fare to your Hartford office.
The man has been seen alive, Dollar. I never was satisfied that he was dead. His boat, a small cruiser, was found wrecked, you know, but never a body.
How long ago was that?
A little over 4 years ago, 1945. He was declared dead in 1947 in appellate court, and we were forced to meet the claim of his widow, or his wife and accomplice, as it might seem now. Go ahead. Here's the lady that saw and spoke to him. Mrs. Marshall, this is Mr. Dollar.
How do you do?
Mrs. Marshall?
Now, I want you to tell Mr. Dollar what you told me, Mrs. Marshall, if you will.
Well, my husband and I have been in Bermuda for 3 days.
Mrs. Marshall, explain that you knew Earl Chadwick before.
Oh, yes, we knew him. Not too well, thank heaven, but well enough to be pointed out as friends of that embezzler. You know how people are.
Embezzler, Mrs. Marshall?
Oh, yes, there was attendant theft. He worked at the Monticello Loan Company in New York City. $30,000 disappeared at the same time he did. Police theory was that he wrecked his boat while attempting to leave with the money. Now, Mrs. Marshall, how you happened to see him?
We'd been there 3 days, and that night we went to this nightclub in Hamilton, slumming, so to speak. It's called the Port of Castile on the waterfront. It had been a number of years, mind you, and Chadwick was much thinner, but I recognized him. He was seated with some sailors, and I said, "Jerome, doesn't that look like Earl Chadwick?"
And then you spoke to him.
What else could I do? I was dying of curiosity. When he got up to leave, I met him and said, "Aren't you Earl Chadwick?" He denied it, of course, but being that close, I'm positive that it was.
What did he say? Did he give you a name?
No, but I found out. I felt I was quite within my rights in asking a few questions. The name he's using is George Brewster.
Well, Dollar?
What about Chadwick's wife? What happened to her?
She remarried one of his business associates, Harold Anderson. Yeah. I had the girls draw up a complete record on the case. Photographs, police reports, everything you'll need. The wife's address is there in Queens, I think.
All right, Mr. Scarf. I'll do what I can. Expense account item 2, $250 plane ticket and miscellaneous expenses between Hartford and Bermuda. I drew an aisle seat and one of the worst hazards of air travel, or any other kind of travel.
I'll tell you something. It pays to study these places before you go to them. Now, I've been out there before. Nothing teaches like experience. But before my first trip, I knew more about Bermuda than lots of the folks that lived there, eh?
Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah, yes, sir. Quite a history. Spoiled now, though. People aren't worth anything anymore. You know what spoiled them? Tourists. Yeah, took away all their ambition. Turned them into a bunch of lazy beggars and horse traders. Don't farm anymore. Don't do anything but work the tourists. Now, I don't want to be a wet blanket, you understand?
Oh, yeah.
But keep an eye on your wallet. They'll strip you if you give them a chance. My business is farm tools. What's yours?
Yes, sir.
My name is Dollar. Here's my credentials. I'd like to see the chief constable.
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Mr. Dollar to see you, sir, an insurance investigator from the States.
Yes, of course. Send him in.
Right, sir. That door, Mr. Dollar.
Thank you.
Pleasure, Mr. Dollar. Your company cabled that you were coming. Sit down.
Thank you.
Well, now, you're here to look into the affairs of one George Brewster. What's he been up to?
I'm not sure he's been up to anything yet. According to a witness, he answers the description of a man who disappeared from New York a few years ago with $30,000. He was declared dead, and the company that hired me paid off an $80,000 insurance claim to his wife.
I see. Quite a valuable chap.
Yeah, if he is the chap. What about this Brewster? Do you people know him?
We acquainted ourselves with him after the cable arrived. Nothing against him. Lives a rather rum life. Doesn't seem to have much.
Are his papers in order? Passport? Visas?
I trust that he wouldn't be here if they were not. Like any other paradise, Mr. Dollar, Bermuda is forced to accept the existence of a certain percentage of misplaced or lost persons on its outskirts. That's what they are.
They?
Here's the address.
Thank you.
At the lower end of King George Road. Do you wish transportation?
No, don't bother. The walk will do me good. I decided against the King George Road address. Instead, I returned to my hotel, memorized the photographs of Earl Chadwick, subtracting a little weight from the somewhat flabby face. And that night, I found myself a table near the door at the port of Castile. I sat there, nursing a minimum of foul drinks. It was 10 o'clock before he came in and found standing space at the bar. George Brewster? Or Earl Chadwick?
What's the matter with you? What is this?
I'm curious, too. How about coming over to my table?
All right. You act like a cop.
Just 50% cop, no badge. I'm working for Tri-State Life Insurance Company.
What does that mean?
They insured a man and paid off to his wife. Now they are unsure he's dead.
He belongs to that other name you threw at me. What was it? Chadwick?
Earl Chadwick.
And I must look like him.
Here's a snapshot.
Huh. He's fatter, but it's pretty close at that. You know, about a week ago, some crazy old dame I never saw before called me some other name. It might have been Chadwick. I thought she'd drunk over her quota.
She was an old friend of Chadwick's. She swears she'd recognize him if she saw him. And she swears she saw him.
Oh, it's weird, isn't it? I suppose it happens more often than we know about. What do you want? My papers and stuff?
They might help.
Sure, I'll write down my address. Come on out anytime tomorrow. There you are.
Thank you. I should recover from these drinks by noon.
Well, that'll be all right. It's crazy, isn't it? Things like this could get your goat.
You the guy George was talking about last night?
Probably. I'm Johnny Dollar. Is George here?
No, he had to leave. He said you could come in. He said you could look at this, George. Here's his passport and cards and things.
How long have you known him?
2 years last month.
You know where he came from?
Never asked me where I came from. This guy, he looks like. He had a wife?
Yeah. I want to take some of his personal things into town to check his prints against this passport. Shaving brush if he uses one, tubes, jars, anything.
You think he's the guy?
I'll have to find out.
Never mind.
You told me you were going.
The print would check against the passport, but it wouldn't make any difference. Now that it's started, why stretch it out? Why not make it easy?
George?
No, Earl. I'd almost forgotten. Earl. Where can we talk?
I've got a hotel room. The statement he made filled in most of the blanks in the case. 1, his wife was to have met him in Mexico City, but hadn't. 2, most of the stolen funds had gone to his wife to keep her going until she collected the insurance.
So she got married. I didn't know that. She told me to wait, and I did. Grace married.
We can leave for the States
Grace
anytime you're ready.
Harold. Huh? Oh, I can be ready anytime you say. All I have to do is pack a few things and say goodbye to Fran.
Expense account item 3, space for 2 on New York-bound plane. Chadwick was a hard man to figure out, but one thing I did realize. Now that he'd started, he was almost happy to be going back to the people he'd left. We arrived in the evening, and the next morning, I was told when I telephoned that Mrs. Grace Chadwick Anderson and her husband were at home and would receive me.
Oh, good morning.
Hello, Grace. Harold.
I beg your pardon?
I understand, Harold. This must be the man that Mrs. Marshall phoned about, you know, the one in Bermuda.
Oh, come now, Grace. That's no good.
Who are you, anyway? Mr. Dollar, for what purpose did you and this man come here?
I brought him here so you could identify him as your missing husband.
That's idiotic. There is the faintest resemblance, yes, but that's all.
What do you have in mind, Mr. Dollar? Now, no crude extortion attempt like this will get you anything but arrest. I know Earl Chadwick, and I'll swear under oath that this man is not he.
I should think you would, Harold.
Who are you, and where did you learn my name?
Get him out of here.
Why? Why not talk over old times, Grace?
Wait a minute. All right, Mrs. Anderson, Mr. Anderson. I'm sorry I've taken up your time. Come on.
Dollar, what's the matter? You too?
Come on.
I'm sorry, dear. I know it's been unpleasant for you.
Who do you think I am? I ask you, who do you think I am?
That doesn't count. You're legally dead. What about your parents?
They're dead. But I have friends, or people that knew me.
They're no good. If your wife won't identify you, they're no good. You work for a loan company. They must have your prints.
I took them from the files and destroyed them when I left.
How are your teeth?
What?
Teeth. Who was your dentist here in town?
Dr. Field. It's been so long. Dr. Homerfield. Drake, Professional Building, Manhattan.
He'll still have your x-rays on file. They're as good as fingerprints. Go there this morning. Don't use your name. Give him your other name, George Brewster. Have a new set of x-rays taken. I'll do the rest.
All right.
Hold it. Now, look, I don't have to hire somebody to follow you, do I?
No. Oh, no. Not after I've seen them. You don't have to worry about my going anyplace.
Expense account item 4, $25 services of a private detective. Assignment, hailing Earl Chadwick and or George Brewster. At 1 o'clock, he had left the dentist's office and gone to his hotel room. At 3, he was still there. And at 4:30, I arrived in the office of Dr. Homer Field.
Brewster? Oh, yes. His x-rays have come through. They're on the clamps. Don't touch them, please. What is your interest?
Police identification.
Oh, yes. We're always happy to cooperate.
Thank you. Now, how about digging in your files for the x-rays on a patient named Chadwick? Earl Chadwick.
I'll be glad to. Chadwick. Earl M. Chadwick, is that your man?
That's the name.
1945. Ooh. He should have been in for hygiene.
Those pictures, how do they compare with this new set? Brewster.
Well, let's have a look. There's malocclusion, lower bicuspid, impacted third molar. Erosion inlay, very interesting.
You mean they're the same in both sets of pictures?
Oh, no, definitely not.
Oh. But a man's mouth could change since 1945, couldn't it?
Yes, it could, especially with neglect, but that would never cause a man to grow new teeth. Now, you see here, Brewster has one more incisor than Chadwick. The whole character of the mouth is different, I see. Here?
Yeah. I see, it's different, all right.
Definitely. These two men would not look even faintly alike.
In just a moment, we will return to the second act of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. But first, down the old Ox Road, learn to croon straight from the shoulder. Milestones in popular American music. Milestones in the career of one of America's favorite troubadours, Bing Crosby. This Wednesday night, over most of these same CBS stations, you're invited to hear the Bing Crosby Show. Bing Crosby with the music of John Scott Trotter, with the Rhythm Airs with Ken Carpenter. Here's the show designed for the whole family. A pleasant and diverting mixture of music and merriment, guided by the one and only Bing Crosby. Plan now to hear The Bing Crosby Show this Wednesday night on CBS. And now with our star, Edmund O'Brien, we return to the second act of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar.
Look, Dr. Field, these x-rays labeled Earl Chadwick, could they be misfiled? Could they be under the wrong name?
Misfiled? No, definitely not. My assistant has been with me for 10 years. Never made a mistake yet.
Well, then could anyone else have gotten in here and planted a different set under that name?
But why? I would realize the difference the moment I looked into the mouth. That erosion inlay alone.
Yeah, I know. Look, your office, has it been broken into?
Yeah, a long time ago, for narcotics.
How long ago?
6, 7 years ago, during the war.
But not since then?
I've missed nothing.
The janitor, the nightman, does he have a key?
No, it's cleaned in the evening just before I leave. Robbery is out of the question. Just what is your problem, Mr. Dollar?
Well, if I wanted to plant some x-rays in a file, where could I get some?
Well, I never thought of it. But
where would I go? Would you give me some?
Oh, no, definitely not. That would be most unethical, unless, of course, you were a patient of mine and the x-rays were of your own mouth.
Oh, thank you, Doctor. I think that's what I wanted to hear you say. Before dark, I made 2 more stops, searching for something to help me prove that Earl Chadwick was alive, if he was. The Hall of Records had nothing but a couple of certificates on him. One recorded his birth, the other recorded his death. I checked the wanted file at police headquarters. They had checked him out in 47 when the court had pronounced him dead. On my way out of there, I made 2 phone calls. The second was to the detective I'd hired. Landro, what are you doing in your office? Did you lose him or get tired?
He was on to me, Dollar. He got into the crowds at Macy's. I put the houseman at his hotel on it. He's watching his door.
I just phoned his room. He's not there. What's he been up to?
He left the hotel at 318 and took a cab over to 3rd Avenue.
What address?
A pawn shop, Johnny. He bought a gun.
Nice going, Landro. If you decide to change over to stopping traffic at school crossings, use me as a reference. Where's your husband, Miss Anderson?
He's here, but he
doesn't... Come on, I want to talk to you both.
You have no right to be barging.
Where is he?
What is it, Grace? Oh, it's you again.
That's right.
He forced his way into the house. Make him get out, Harold.
I will if I have to. Now, look here. I don't know what that imposter has told you, and I don't care. If you choose to believe his lies, that's your business. And a sorry business it is. But I will not allow my wife and my home to be upset by his schemes any longer.
Are you through?
No, not quite. It's obvious to us, if it's not to you, that this man learned of the unexplained details surrounding Earl's death and is attempting to use this vague resemblance to his advantage. Now, extortionists land in prison, Mr. Dollar. And the only reason I haven't turned to the police before this is that we want to escape the notoriety of having past tragedies lived again.
He bought a gun this afternoon. That makes him look like the double-crossed husband, doesn't it?
The man's a maniac. I'm going to ask for police protection.
Where is he?
Who?
This man. Do you know where he is?
When I found out he bought a gun, I was afraid he was coming here to use it.
Harold, I can't believe this is happening.
Now, Grace, please. Why would he harm us? He doesn't know us and we don't know him. He bought the gun to convince you, Dollar.
He knows a lot about you, Anderson. He knows you were Chadwick's immediate superior in the loan company before he disappeared.
Harold, it couldn't be, could it?
Grace.
It's been a long time. Maybe some disease could change a person that much. But he would have contacted
Grace,
me.
Earl is dead.
How did this man learn so much about us?
As far as I can see, he's made only one mistake. The size of the theft. He says he stole $10,000. According to the record, $30,000 was missing. Of course, it's possible that it isn't a mistake. That somebody in the firm who knew what his plan was picked up the odd $20,000 and put it on Chadwick's account.
Mr. Dollar, I have one thing to say to you before you leave. Earl Chadwick is dead.
You're so right. And that's what troubles me. A legally dead man running around loose with a gun makes an interesting situation. Did you ever think of that? Who would the police look for? I'm going to my hotel in case you want to phone in your answer. Where have you been, Chadwick?
Right here. The maid let me in.
What's the idea?
I was scared somebody was following me. I got the feeling they hired somebody to get rid of me.
No.
Why not?
I haven't thought of that yet. Give me the gun.
I need it.
Come on, where is it?
Never mind. Get away from me.
Come on, where are you carrying it?
Hey, you... How did you know I had it?
What were you going to do with it?
I told you I was scared. You thought I was going to kill them?
The idea crossed my mind.
No. What good would that do?
How should I know what's going on in that head of yours? Why'd you come back then?
Just to get things straightened out.
You wouldn't have had to. I haven't found a way to prove who you are.
Oh, I knew I didn't have to come back. But everything was stagnant. Being George Brewster was dull. I thought that's what I wanted. A new identity, even without Grace. But I guess nobody's ever satisfied. And when you have a choice of who you want to be, then it's really hard. What about the x-rays?
No good. The set under Chadwick didn't match the one you had taken today.
They had to.
They made a switch with somebody else's, probably Anderson's. It's an easy office to enter. Probably hired a cat burglar. Nothing at the Hall of Records, nothing at police headquarters. You're dead.
What did the police say?
I didn't talk to them. Why should I? The case is closed. You're dead.
Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin.
Yeah?
Landro, Johnny.
Oh, yeah. Sorry I blew up.
Forget it. I lost him, didn't I? How is it?
Oh, it's a mess. I'm not getting any place. The only proof I can find is proof that he's dead.
Maybe he should stay there.
Yeah, I'm getting ideas myself.
What about his draft board? They take prints.
Police checked in 47. They lost. Look, I'm going to have to dummy up something. I don't want you to violate any trade secrets, but do you know a good forger?
That depends.
It'll be practically legal. All I need is a driver's license.
I think that can be managed, Johnny. When?
Tonight.
It'll cost.
Well, I'm working for a wealthy company. There's more, too, Landro. How about meeting us in your office in 45 minutes?
Sure, Johnny. Bring a bottle.
Expense account item 5, $500, one bogus 1947 driver's license complete with Chadwick's thumbprint. By 10 p.m., we were back in Landro's office.
Johnny, how desperate is this Anderson?
Desperate enough to welcome a nice, fast deal. Don't quote a price unless you have to. Just get him down here.
Why anybody go through all this to make prison?
Prison?
Come on, Landro, get on the phone. There's the number.
You're my client. Mr. Harold Anderson? I'll be blunt. This is blackmail. I'm calling in the interests of Earl Chadwick. No, he isn't. He's alive. But I do have proof. A driver's license he took out just before he disappeared, as a sort of a double check on the past. You'll believe it when you see it. It's for sale. He doesn't want to go to prison any more than you do, but he needs money. I said you'd believe it when you saw it. I think it'll be worth a trip over here. We'll talk price then. We meet here. Number 465 Tide Building, 7th Avenue. It's no bluff. Nobody knows about it. I'll be alone. He doesn't believe it.
When'll he be here?
He said 45 minutes.
Good. Now, don't make the price too high. Set up a meeting with him tomorrow, and we'll have the police here.
Well, step forth, Lazarus.
Empty the ashtrays, Landro. Looks like 3 men have been here. He arrived at 11:30. Chadwick and I, in an adjoining room with the door cracked, watched his wary entrance.
Who are you?
The name is on the door.
Landro. You work under a license issued by the state of New York.
Sometimes, but the license isn't important tonight. You won't make any trouble. Sit down.
Well, Landro?
Here it is. Just look. Name, a serial number, a date, a signature, and a thumbprint.
Where is he?
He'll phone me in the morning.
Well, where's the man from the insurance company?
Looking for Chadwick. He doesn't know about this yet.
Why? Why has he waited this long?
He didn't know everything that had happened. You and his wife. The money you made on him.
What's the price?
Well, as he put it to me, it ought to be figured from the 20 grand you took and the advance you've made in the company the last few years.
How much?
He'd like to start at 15,000.
That would take a while.
5,000 tomorrow, say around noon. The other 10 within a week. That's when you get the license.
Well, it would have to be later than noon tomorrow, but I brought 1,500 with me.
That's a deal.
All right. I'll give it to you.
Hey, watch it! Don't do it!
Anderson!
Wait, Dollar!
Landro, down! Landro!
I'm all right.
Chadwick! Chadwick! Chadwick. Pulse. Pull his collar down.
Nothing?
Nothing. I don't know what your company can do about it now. Both Mr. and Mrs. Anderson gave statements to the police that same night, confessing their contribution to the original crime. You'll have a hard time prying Harold Anderson loose from the clutches of the state, which is working on a murder indictment for him. About the wife, Grace, I don't know. If she's not found guilty as an accessory, I'd be happy to appear as a witness if she's brought to trial on fraud charges. As for my part in it, I'm not proud of myself, but I was hired to find a dead man, and I finally found one, just before he lived. Expense account total, $1,575.30. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, stars Edmund O'Brien in the title role and is written by Gil Dowd and David Ellis, with music composed and conducted by Leith Stevens. Edmund O'Brien can soon be seen starring in the Columbia Pictures production, The Los Angeles Story. Featured in tonight's cast were Lillian Baeff, Walter Burke, Virginia Gregg, John Boehner, Ben Wright, Tudor Owen, and Ted Osborne. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, is produced and directed by Jaime Del Valle. Join us again next week at this same time when, from Hollywood, Edmund O'Brien returns in another transcribed adventure of
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Every Wednesday night, CBS brings you Groucho Marx with his brilliant quiz, You Bet Your Life. It's one of the brightest, most spontaneous, most genuinely funny shows on the air. So be listening this Wednesday night on most of these same CBS stations for You Bet Your Life, starring Groucho Marx. Stay tuned now for the adventures of Philip Marlowe, which follow over most of these same CBS stations. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Welcome back. Once again, we hear Tudor Owen, a.k.a. Jocko Madigan, providing some of his valuable character acting assistance, this time in the role of Earl Chadwick. Once again, a little bit of a downbeat ending, but that tended to be a bit of a hallmark of the Edmund O'Brien, Yours Truly, Johnny Dollars. A reminder to you folks, starting September 1st, when you vote for the show on Podcast Alley, you can express your preference for which show you would like us to do after Father Brown. And you can right now take a listen to a sample of Candy Matson and Nero Wolfe. It's candyvnero.greatdetectives.net. And I also want to remind you, as you make your plans for travel coming up in the fall, some have kids going back to college or going to college or are moving to start new jobs, remember to shop JohnnyDollarAir.com. JohnnyDollarAir.com is Priceline, so you have the flexibility to name your own prices or choose from published fares, plus you help support the great detectives of old-time radio. Are any comments on Facebook? I've been downloading these for years. They are fantastic. My favorite is the man with the action-packed expense account, Johnny Dollar. Thank you. And today's episode was definitely action-packed. This one, it started a few Father's Day back. I had a Zune given to me by my children. I'm not a music person, and Doctor Who can only go so far. Long story short, I found Great Detectives of Old-Time Radio, and ever since my days have been filled with Paul Dame's shady characters and the mastery of the Foley artist. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And one more comment here from Podcast Alley, just a simple love the show. Well, thanks you so much for your support, and I encourage everybody, got any comments, send them to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Cast your vote for the show on Podcast Alley, podcastalley.greatdetectives.net. And join us on Facebook, facebook.greatdetectives.net. But have a great weekend. Send your comment from Boise, Idaho. This is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.